Okay, the streaming has started. Now I'm going to try the record again. Okay, we are recording. I'm going to give Cheryl back the presenter capabilities. Okay, looks like she's got it. So
we're good?
We are ready to roll. We are good. Right. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. I'd like to call to tonight's April 8th, 2021 Development Commission meeting to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and then go on with our agenda. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our first item on tonight's agenda is the presentation, discussion, and action regarding the residential on-site sales and pickup zoning code change. Cheryl and Belkis, are we ready?
Yes, we are. Thank you. My name is Cheryl Graffinino. I am the local food system strategy coordinator.
Hi.
And I'm sorry? Yes, my name is Cheryl Graffinino. I'm the local food system strategies coordinator at Columbus Public Health. And I'm joined tonight by my colleague, Belkis Schoenholz from Department of Development, and one of our urban farmers, Minister Aaron Hopkins. Tonight, we'll be sharing with you an objective to increase, bear with me just, there we are, to increase access to fresh produce by creating provisions within Section 3303 definitions, Section 3332.040 agricultural and stable standards, Section 3333 apartment districts, Section 3345 planned unit development districts, and Section 3347 planned community districts of the City of Columbus zoning code to allow for the on-site sale and or pickup of produce on residentially zoned parcels by small-scale food growers in Columbus. Briefly, an overview of our presentation. I will describe and share with you the background and need for this proposed change, the zoning code challenges and opportunities in our current system, and I will then hand it over to Belkis Schoenholz, who will share with you the research, vetting, and public engagement process, the zoning code proposed updates, feedback and public testimony, benefits to the public, and leave an opportunity for comments and questions. The current proposal is rooted in a number of plans that are active in the City of Columbus and Franklin County. The first of which is the Franklin County Local Food, the Columbus and Franklin County Local Food Action Plan that was adopted by City Council and the Franklin County Board of Commissioners in 2016, and the Green Business and Urban Agriculture Strategic Plan that was completed by the Department of Development for the City of Columbus in 2017. The City and County Local Food Team was formed and began plan implementation in 2017 in earnest. The current goals of these plans that we are addressing is to increase access to fresh produce and further support urban agriculture activities in residential districts. This is essential because in 2015, the most recent data available, the U.S. Department of Agriculture identified that over 264,000 Franklin County residents have low access to a full-service grocery store. Between 2017 and summer of 2020, Franklin County Extension shared with us that the number of urban producers in the City of Columbus has increased from approximately 17 in 2017 to more than 40. The most recent estimate was 42 in the summer of 2020. And additionally, the City of Columbus and Franklin County Land Bank leases approximately 92 parcels for community gardens in our community. So while we have residents who have low access to a grocery store, we also have food being produced in our residential neighborhoods in the City of Columbus that is important to that access. But under the current system, those growers must harvest that food and take it to a farmer's market in our community. And while we've made significant strides in increasing the availability of farmers markets throughout some of our neighborhoods that lack access to grocery stores, those farmers markets still remain predominantly located in our neighborhoods such as Clintonville, Bexley, Worthington, and many of our suburban communities. So the recommendation tonight addresses community actions within the Local Food Action Plan, including Goal B5, which is to grow capacity and enhance viability of civic agriculture that allows more residents to grow food for themselves and their neighbors. Goal C6, which is to revise zoning codes related to permit requirements and land use plans to support and encourage agricultural and food system uses as a viable option for community revitalization. And it also implements a community stakeholder recommendation within the Green Business and Urban Agriculture Strategic Plan, recommendation 2B, to modify selected code requirements to enable expanded urban agriculture activities in residential districts. As I mentioned, the challenge right now is that growers may not sell or market grown produce unless the lot size is a minimum of 5 acres, which in the city of Columbus is a rare situation for growers. The opportunities presented are in all residential zoning chapters, Chapter 3303 definitions, to introduce a definition for a produce stand, to allow for on-site produce sales on residential parcels with a smaller acreage minimum, and for parcels smaller than the minimum to set development and timeframe standards for the operation of a produce stand. And now I'm going to ask my colleague Belka Schoenholz from Department of Development to share with you the research behind today's proposal.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cheryl, and hi everyone, good evening, and thanks for your time today. So with the research portion, we really wanted to examine what some peer cities and peer areas, how they've addressed on-site sale and produce pickup in residentially zoned areas. So we looked at areas like Franklin County, Detroit, Cleveland, Indianapolis, and Minneapolis. And we really wanted to see if they defined a produce stand at all and what that definition looked like, what their minimum acreage for this type of activity looked like, if they had any time frame standards like limiting to certain days of the week or certain months of the year, and then looking at if they limited the number of stands that could be on a parcel and what type of signage was allowed and how those things had to be stored when not in use. Next slide, please. So here's sort of a matrix of some areas that we looked at. This isn't comprehensive, but as you can see, some areas were sort of vague in their descriptions of, time frame standards or what a produce stand was, or they weren't, didn't address it at all. And then other areas, if you look at like Indianapolis or Minneapolis on the chart, they do have certain stipulations like time of day, certain months of the year, and then there are a certain number of produce stands that can be in place. Next slide, please. So based on our research, we knew that we wanted to create a new definition in the Columbus Zoning Code for a produce stand. And that way we have clear boundaries on what a produce stand is, what it looks like, and what can be sold from it. So for our proposed update, we would say that a produce stand means a stand that is an open and non-enclosed structure that is not a building, nor does it employ the use of appliances not to exceed 120 square feet for the display, sale, and or pickup of fresh, unprocessed vegetables or produce as defined by Chapter 3717 of the Ohio Revised Code, flowers, orchard products, or ornamental crops. Next slide. And then the second key update is reviewing and updating the agriculture and stable standards in all of the residential zoning chapters by updating or adding language that allows for agricultural uses, including produce stands, on a minimum lot acre of 1 instead of the 5 acres that we currently have. And then also allowing produce stands on lots that are less than 1 acre as an accessory use, but with certain stipulations. And for us, those stipulations that we're proposing are time frames. So only allowing the produce stand during the growing season, which we define as being between April and December, limiting that to 2 days a week. They don't have to be consecutive days, but just 2 days in general. And then limiting sales and pickup between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And then also having 1 stand maximum and making sure that that stand is stored when not in use if the sales are taking place on a lot that is shared with a dwelling unit. Also that the sign that can accompany the produce stand is no larger than 4 square feet it's non-illuminated. And then again, if it's on a lot that has a dwelling, it is stored when not in use. And then also abiding by any vision clearance standards that are in the zoning code as well. Next slide, please. So in terms of, we did a lot of internal vetting and a lot of public engagement, of course, for this project. And this has been ongoing for about 2 years. So of course, it's a cross-departmental initiative. So we've been working with public health, building and zoning services, Department of Neighborhoods, obviously the Department of Development, myself being from planning, but we also talked with code enforcement and land redevelopment. And then we have the city attorney's office review our language from a legal lens as well to make sure that it looked kosher on that end. And then with public engagement, we've had several meetings with the Urban Farmer Networking Group via OSU Extension. We had 2 of those last year, one virtually and one not pre-pandemic. We also had a 3-month public comment period between October and December of last year, and we got a lot of great comments that way. And we also went through the area commissions and sent communications to all of those requesting feedback. And then Cheryl did some reaching out to other civic groups as well that you see there. Next slide, please. So in response, we did receive supportive feedback, not only internally from all of those internal departments that we listed, but externally as well. I would say the only maybe negative comment we got was that someone would like this to happen year-round instead of limiting it to the growing season. But for example, of one of the urban farmer meetings we had last year, 1/3 of all attendees said that they would do on-site sales and produce pickup if this were to pass. And then we did, I included a couple comments there that we got from folks during our public comment period. Next slide, please. All right, and so we do have a speaker here to give some testimony and context to how this could benefit the public and the community. And we have Minister Aaron Hopkins, who's the Executive Director of Southside Family Farms. And Minister Hopkins, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you so you can give a couple words. Go ahead, thank you. Minister Hopkins, are you there?
I was on the call. Okay.
Oh, great.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, and so I'm Minister Aaron K. Hopkins of Southside Family Farms. I do want to thank the commissioners for this time to be able just to speak and give this testimony. I am an urban farmer on the south side of Columbus, Ohio, on Wilson Avenue. We have 2 land-based sites two city land-based sites that we've been doing urban farming on for 5 years on one and about 3.5 to 4 on the other one. Some years it had development going on. We have been primarily supported by grant dollars. We are looking to address access to fresh fruits and vegetables. We are within the boundaries of a food desert and food insecurities. Our local carryouts do not carry any fresh vegetables. And so in that, a lot of times we've been supporting our own selves in this work and looking to find sustainability to be able to, I'm speaking in favor of this, to allow for on-site sales and pickup of produce because it would give us some greater sustainability and also bring a farm stand right to our communities to give our residences more access and to be able to do that from residential property. We have secured a commercial piece of property where we are looking to establish for farm stand, but there are multiple other urban farmers in the city of Columbus that are doing this great work that would like to also be able to provide this fresh food access to their communities right from their residential properties. And so I am a master urban farmer from out of OSU Extensions and also participate in the Buckeye InFact ISA It's a program that is administered by OSU, or the Ohio State University, engaging youth and families and teaching them growing techniques, and to be able to do it at home as well as they come on our site and we all grow together. And we are looking to do institutionally supported agriculture. And so I thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Minister Hopkins. We appreciate you. Can we go to the next slide, please, Cheryl? Yeah, so just to wrap up, again, there are multiple benefits to the public, but one, it will increase access to fresh, affordable, and local produce, especially in areas that are food deserts or aren't near grocery stores and that don't have access to healthy foods. Furthermore, it expands the ability for local urban food growers to sell and distribute their produce, so it's good from a business perspective as well. And then also it does set development standards that protect the residential nature and integrity of residentially zoned neighborhoods. So making sure that this activity is taking place, but we also don't want someone selling tomatoes at 3 a.m. with a big flashing neon sign either. So there are multiple benefits. There's a lot of support. And if we could go to the next slide, please. Yeah, and with that, we wanted to keep it short. We wanted to respect your time, but thank you for your time. And Cheryl and I's contact information is here, and we welcome any questions or comments that you might have. Thank you.
Well, I, for one, think it's a very practical and realistic approach you've got. And I may have to drive down there and grab a salad for lunch one of these days.
Thank you.
I have one other question, primarily, I think, maybe for the minister. Do you rely totally on grants in order to get your program started, or do you have other means of generating the kind of funds you need to operate?
It's been out of my pocket, out of my pocket. As a minister, I am a man of faith, and so I've sown a lot of seed into the work I've done. But we do have great partnerships with like Nationwide Children's Hospital here on the South Side that has also maybe done in-kind donations to, along with some other grants. But it has been primarily grants. We did have a GoFundMe for a larger expansion. We've got 2 acres out in Johnstown, Ohio, that is a LLC by myself, but it allows us to grow. It's on those 2 acres, we can grow that much more vegetables. And so, no, there is no other support.
You're on a great mission, I think.
And if I may add to Minister Hopkins' response there, just to give you a little additional background and context, I also manage the City of Columbus Urban Gardening Grant, which is a collaborative funding process where we work together with Scott's Miracle Grow Foundation and Franklin Park Conservatory on behalf of Franklin County to fund community gardens. This doesn't even begin to touch our more for-profit model farmers. But last year we received requests totaling more than $170,000. And even with all of us together, we were only able to put a little under $100,000 out there. So the grant programs don't even come close to meeting the needs of just our community gardens.
Well, with years like the year we just went through, this would be a godsend. And I think the stipulations that I've read in your details appear well thought out and very practical and enforceable, and I think understandable by anyone. Does any other commission member have any comments or questions?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Kay.
Yes, Kay.
I would like to commend the presenters. I think they did a good job. I think the idea of introducing ornamental crops into gardening and flowering makes sense, so that the plant and the horticulture you introduce into your yard should be able to, not just for visual pleasure, but also could be eaten. So I think that's a great idea. My question then is, with all these stipulations, how are these going to be monitored? Like 2 days a week and 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Who's going to monitor all those?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So with like anything else, the zoning code, no one is actively out surveilling the areas. With any type of zoning code, that it's complaint driven in the city. So someone, like a neighbor or someone would walking by, if they see that someone is violating any part of the zoning code, then they can call 311, and then a code enforcement officer would go out and investigate that. So that's how that would be monitored, is through code enforcement.
I think that's a great idea. I think the next move will be to introduce poultry.
Yeah.
Mike, I've got a question. Yes, please go ahead.
This is John Ingwerson. I'm curious if there is a mechanism, or there's thoughts of a mechanism that would allow more establishment of some of the vacant lots that perhaps the abandoned house group would be able to actually dedicate to urban gardening. I know that this Kossuth community garden had a lot of heartfelt buy-in from people that were using another fellow's land at his behest. But when he wanted to develop it, people got a little upset that they were losing their urban garden. Is there a way the city can kind of strategically plan that when some abandoned type houses get raised, that they could make a community garden out of that and actually keep the sustainability of that project going?
This is Cheryl, and I'm happy to speak to that. Although I don't believe any of our colleagues from the land bank are on this call, but if they are, hopefully they can jump in. But I have been working closely with the land bank for the last several years. And while the city of Columbus, one of the things that's always challenging is that we are often asked to look at models like Cleveland and Detroit, but we certainly don't have the empty land problem in Columbus that we do, that some of the cities like that do. So what our land bank has done is they about 2 or 3 years ago, they really reevaluated their property holdings and identified and kind of pulled out of the community garden lease program the properties that were most likely for redevelopment. And so, which was a little bit of a challenge for some of our growers because it took some of the lots they wanted out of that, but what they were looking to do was to really minimize the likelihood of a garden getting started on a property that was really on the block for being redeveloped. Our community garden program with the land bank has worked very hard to never remove an active community garden. There's certainly always situations where there's folks who have a garden lease but aren't actively gardening on it, so those types of things have to be managed. But they are very, very, very invested in continuing those gardens and are continuing to work on additional standards and processes that would allow some longer term access to that land. So where the city is in control of the land, it is very much one of their priorities to keep those active, vibrant community gardens in place. I hope that answered your question.
It does. I have one other adjunct to that, and is water, is like being able to provide water to those sites something that the division of water helping Or is that something that's an impossibility, given the fact that some of these sites don't have owners?
Yeah, it is not an impossibility. Unfortunately, it's very expensive, and by city charter, there's some real limits on how city funds can be used for those types of services. Definitely cannot be used to pay for water bills. And what we found is that water installation is generally somewhere in the neighborhood of $6,000 to $10,000, depending on the lot's current situation. We did have some funding from the USDA that was run through Mid-Ohio Food Bank a few years ago that really helped to cover some of those costs. But it is a continuing problem and challenge that we continue to try and work through. I have not found a solution to it yet. So if anybody has any good suggestions, I'm all ears. Please send them to me or give me a call. But it is definitely a challenge. So many use cisterns and water, and the land bank properties will have the cisterns filled. They'll provide them and then they'll also fill them. But it is still a challenge.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it's Marty. I have a quick question maybe for Cheryl.
Yes, Marty.
Thank you. Cheryl, I'm new to this. I really like the idea, certainly of the sustainable urban garden. I'm looking at 3347-124 and the use of the term stable. So in sub B, a stable may be erected in a residential district contained in the chapter, provided that, and then there are requirements, and so minimum lot area 5 acres, and then the stable complies with appropriate regulations of Columbus Health. Are we talking about a stable for large animals, small animals, poultry? I'm curious. I'm not being critical. I'm just very curious.
I'm going to defer to Belkis on that. So.
Okay, Belkis.
Cheryl, Paul Friedman here, Building and Zoning Services. When they say stable, what they are referring to simply is a stable for horses. Other animal enclosures would not be included as stables.
Okay, and then the horses anticipated would be working farm animals as opposed to recreational livestock or livestock for sale? I'm just trying to wrap my arms around it.
Well, that portion of the code is existing code, so it's not being changed, and it can be either. It can be someone's pet animal, pet horse, or it can be a working horse. We have both examples in the city of Columbus in the R zone properties.
Okay. Thank you.
But it is a 5 acre minimum.
For stables, that is correct. That will be separate and distinct from the other gardening topics covered tonight.
All right, we've got a lengthy agenda on the zoning end, so if there's no more comments, I'd like to encourage you to go to your next step and get this implemented into the code. I think if it needs to be manipulated, Paul Friedman's the best wordsmith for that in the city. But for now, I would entertain a motion to approve what you've done so far and offer our support. Get a motion.
So move.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor of approval?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, best of luck to you, and Reverend, you get a lot of nice sunny days coming up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, let's start tonight's agenda. We have 3 cases that need to be tabled. Case number 4, Z20-117 on Cleveland Avenue. The second one is case number 8, Z21-007 on East Broad Street. And case number 14, Z20-106 on Livingston Avenue. I need a motion for each of these three cases to be tabled until the next available agenda. A motion?
So moved.
Okay, second. All those in
Second.
favor of, yes, sir. All those in favor of tabling these three cases, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the cases 4, 8, and 14 are now tabled. Okay, now we will
For
go
the
to
record, could I get,
yes.
sorry, for the record, could I get who moved and who seconded? I did not hear that.
Good question. It's Marty. I think I moved, but I think I collided with one of my colleagues, so it matters not to me who moved and who seconded.
I seconded.
Okay, I'll just put
This
Marty.
is John.
All right, great. Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
Okay, we are
All right.
official. Now we will go to case number 1, Z20-084, 875 Michigan Avenue.
Okay. The 0.99 acre site consists of 2 parcels developed with the former Bun Minnick pipe organ manufacturing facility in the M Manufacturing District. The requested AR3 apartment residential district will allow the existing building to be converted into an apartment building and provides for a second apartment building to be constructed on site. To the north across Quality Place is an industrial building in the M Manufacturing District. To the east across Michigan Avenue are a daycare center and office building in the M Manufacturing District. To the south is an apartment complex in the AR2 apartment residential district. To the west across Ingleside Drive is an industrial building in the M Manufacturing District. Multi-unit residential development in the AR2 apartment residential district is northwest of the site. The site is located within the boundaries of the Harrison West Plan, which recommends office commercial land uses for this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Harrison West Society, whose recommendation is for approval. Concurrent council variance CV 20-097 has been filed to conform the existing telecommunication equipment located in the southwest portion of the site for a monopole on the adjacent property. The request also includes standard variances for increased building height, reduced parking, and reduced parking setback and perimeter yard. The site plan included with the variance proposes the existing building to be converted to a 27-unit apartment building and the construction of a 28-unit apartment building. The Division of Parking Services has approved a parking study for this proposal and can support the requested parking variance. The requested AR3 apartment residential district will allow an existing manufacturing facility to be converted into an apartment building and provides for additional apartment development on the site. The proposal is not consistent with the office commercial land use recommendation of the Harrison West Plan. However, given the changing nature of land uses in the immediate area and the age of the plan, apartment residential use is consistent with the mixed-use typology of the area. In addition, the adaptive reuse of the existing building is considered as a mitigating factor in supporting the proposed density and use. Planning Division staff has requested additional information in the form of building elevations and a revised site plan that includes additional screening of the existing telecommunication equipment to align with C2P2 design guidelines, as chain link fencing is not considered appropriate for screening. Planning staff also recommends that on-street parking be explored to replace the proposed parking lot on the west section of the site, along with additional bicycle parking to mitigate the requested parking variance. Finally, planning staff recommends the applicant provide street trees along each street frontage in consultation with the city forester. As such, staff supports the requested AR3 district for multi-unit residential development with the understanding that the site plans and exhibits committed to with the concurrent council variance will address the comments above. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval of this AR3 apartment residential district, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Dan, we have any traffic issues here?
No traffic issues.
And Kathy, any recreation and parks concerns? Is Kathy on the team tonight?
muted, Kathy.
There she is. Kathy, any concerns on this case?
I think you're muted, Kathy. Are you also on a phone line? Oh, she froze. Kathy froze. I don't believe there's any park issues with this because it is less than an acre, so.
Okay, any questions or comments by members of the commission? Okay, is Dave Perry handy? Dave?
Yes.
Dave, we can't hear you. There we go.
Dave, do you have anything you'd like to add to the staff's presentation?
Well, Dave Perry here as agent for the applicant. There have been quite a number of rezonings in this area of Harrison Park, starting many years ago with the Wagenbrenner Abatech factory that was redeveloped into Harrison Park, and there's been numerous residential developments since. So the zoning is very consistent with what's happening with Harrison West as the area changes, as the west portion of Harrison West changes from historical manufacturing uses to housing. On a couple things, I will make sure the Harrison West Society was very, very happy with the building elevations. I will make sure those get to the planning staff. But on a couple of the planning staff comments, like the telecommunications equipment screening, that's an existing facility by lease, and we have no ability to change their fencing. So that is not likely to happen. And parking was a gigantic issue with Harrison West. In particular, we did the parking study. There was some additional parking worked into the site plan. So there is not going to be any elimination of parking on the west side of the property. That would automatically get us a disapproval from the Harrison West Society. But I'll make sure they get the elevations, and I'll work on the trees with the planning staff.
Okay, very good. Any opposition speakers? I have none registered. So I'm assuming there are no opposition speakers. We have staff approval and we have area commission approval. So with that said, I'd like to call the roll.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Kayan Wukwe,
Yes.
and Sheriff Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too. And with this, we will go to case number 2, Z21-00330 Hawks Avenue.
The 0.09 acre site consists of one undeveloped parcel zoned in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District, which permits P1 private parking district uses. The applicant proposes the R2F residential district to permit residential uses. North of the site across West Capitol Street is commercial development in the LC4 Limited Commercial District. South and west of the site across Hawks Avenue are single-unit dwellings in the R2F residential district. East of the site is a parking lot in the LP1 Limited Parking District. The site is located within the boundaries of the West Franklinton Plan, which recommends medium to high-density mixed residential land uses for this location. Additionally, the plan includes early adoption of Columbus citywide planning policies, design guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Franklinton Area Commission, whose recommendation is for disapproval. In your supplemental packet, you will see some additional testimony from previous and current property owners of the site, as well as 2 additional letters of support and 2 letters of opposition. The requested R2F residential district will permit residential land uses.
The proposal is consistent with the West Franklinton's plan recommendation for medium to high density mixed residential land uses and is consistent with the zoning pattern of the surrounding neighborhood. Planning Division staff supports the request as there are no plans for development of the site at this time. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to help answer any questions.
Any questions? Dan, traffic issues?
No traffic issues.
And Kathy, any comment from Recreation and Parks? Okay, shake of the head. Okay, is the applicant here?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, I think we have a couple speakers on hand as well. Is there anything, Brianne, you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
Well, I'd just like to probably introduce myself first of all and say that I am now the previous owner of 30 Hawks Avenue, even though I'm the original applicant on this case. During the process, the lot was actually sold to Matt Arvin and Alex Cochran, who are on the call tonight. So I know they've prepared a little bit, and I'll probably turn the floor to them. But as now a neighbor to them, I also own the commercial building at 937 Broad. I'm in support of rezoning and have been the whole time that I've been working with Matt and Alex over the past year. So I'm happy to answer any questions as they kind of talk you through what they have planned out. But if it's okay, I'll just turn the floor over to them.
Okay, that's great. Let's turn it over to Alex and Matt.
Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
Can you hear us all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
All right. Hi, Matt Arvin here. And this is my wife, Alex Cochran. We just got married recently. We've been residents over here at 34 Hawks Avenue for about 3 years now. And would answer any questions you have regarding this request.
Haley, did you want us to walk everybody through the presentation?
Alex, I give the presenter capabilities to you, but if you'd like me to run it, I have it open on my screen as well.
Sure, we can present. Let's see here. Share screen. Okay. There we go. Not that. Okay. Matt, did you want to?
Working here.
Okay. Can everybody see your screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
All right. So just prepared a couple of things here. I'm not sure if it's known in the notes that Haley prepared, but we don't have any formal development plans at this time. Initially, we just wanted to get this rezoned and kind of go about the process of combining the two lots together. Right now, currently, our existing lot at 34 Hawks Avenue is the exact same size, just less than 1/10 of an acre. And then from there, begin the development and planning process to improve that lot and make it a part of our house in some shape or form, which we are still yet determining. But anything to add on that?
No, I think the biggest first step is the reason we took this was because on the financial side of things, we had to have it be zoned as residential. The process moved forward a lot quicker than we thought, and we were able to work through the sales and finalize that. But on the back and personal side of it, we cannot combine these lots unless they are zoned the same.
All right, it seems fairly simple and straightforward.
Okay.
I think our task here is to determine, in our own opinion, whether this is an appropriate use or not appropriate. And it's pretty clear that we know what the use is, even though it's not formally laid out in terms of drawings and permit documents.
Mr. Chairman, I have a quick question. Thank you. I'm sorry. So the obvious question to me is, why did the area commission disapprove?
So part of the Franklinton area plan, there is a very small section that talks about if there were a need for expansion of parking, this parcel of land could be used to compensate for that development. But in the Franklinton plan, it also highlights recommendations of how this land and parcel should be used as residential, and that it highly recommends that it is not a parking lot with the alley coming up against the parcel.
I don't suppose there's anyone here from the Franklinton Area Commission to speak by chance?
Marty, I'm reading the notes from the standardized recommendation form where Harrison West Society is, oh no, it's the Franklinton Society.
Yeah, Franklinton.
And it basically says that there's 12 votes no, 2 votes yes.
Yeah, I see that.
And it doesn't give any details of why this was disapproved. So,
Chair, in your supplemental packet, you will see some additional opposition testimony from Mr. Estabrook, who is a member of the Franklinton Area Commission, that sort of underscores some of the parking concerns that were related to the BZA variance on the property to the north, and why they rezoned this property as to allow parking lot uses. So that's just some additional background on the Franklinton Area Commission recommendation there.
Okay.
There were 2 calls regarding the rezoning of this lot. Both times in opposition, it was mainly focused on if and when there are more businesses in this section of Broad Street, there's going to be the need for more off-the-street parking. This lot would maybe allow 8 spots, and that's if and when there are businesses that would require that. We're trying to do something with this right now.
I can probably speak a little bit to the history of, there was an owner prior to my business's ownership of that property that did go for, I think, the rezoning of that lot into commercial. And there were plans to have that be supplemental parking for 937 Broad, as it was going to be developed into a tap room. My company for right now has put a halt on any development plans we have for the future. And the plans that we did have prior to COVID did not include a tap room at that location.
Okay. Well, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
I think it's also worth mentioning too that the east-west corridor plan, Broad Street has been selected as the west line. So there's hopefully not going to be a need for major parking.
No, and I think mixed use projects bring their own parking as part of their own asset, and they don't depend on something across the alley. Okay, I think we've got the picture here. If there's no more comments or questions, I'd like to call the roll.
Maria Conroy.
Yes. Yes.
Amanda Golden.
Yes. Yes.
John Ingwerson.
This is John, yes.
Kayan Wukwe.
Yes.
Marty Anderson.
Yes.
And Sheriff Fitzpatrick.
Yes, so you are approved.
Much. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Good luck with your increased home. Okay, we will now go to case number 3. Case number Z20-112, 5770 Carl Road.
Okay, before I begin, there are 2 letters in support that were submitted to you guys today in the supplemental packet for this rezoning. And the site consists of 1 parcel developed with a medical office and pharmacy. The majority of the site is in the C2 commercial district, while the northwest corner of the site is in the C4 commercial district. The site is subject to ordinance number 1713-00, which permits a pharmacy of up to 2,000 square feet. The applicant requests a CPD commercial plan development district that will permit all C3 commercial uses, allowing the existing pharmacy to expand within the existing building. North of the site is a religious facility in the C4 commercial district. South of the site is a religious facility in the R1 residential district. East of the site is a commercial building in the C3 commercial district. And west of the site is a shopping center in the C4 and C3 commercial districts. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Northland 1 area plan, which recommends community commercial land uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northland Community Council, whose recommendation is for approval. The CPD text establishes use restrictions and supplemental development standards that address building and parking setbacks, traffic access, parking lot landscaping and screening, and dumpster screening. The text includes variances to interior parking lot landscaping, parking lot screening, dumpster screening, screening between commercial residential districts, and the building setback from Carl Road. Additionally, the text includes a commitment to maintain the property as shown on the submitted site plan. The requested CPD commercial plan development district will permit C3 uses that allow the existing pharmacy to expand within the existing building on site. The CPD text establishes appropriate use restrictions and development standards that will maintain the property as it is currently developed. The proposed CPD district is consistent with the Northland 1 area plan's land use recommendation for community commercial land uses at this location and is compatible with the zoning and development pattern along this section of Carl Road. Therefore, State Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions or comments? Dan, any traffic issues here?
All traffic issues are resolved.
Okay, it's an interesting little display in the northwest corner. Kathy? Or Carson? No, there's
There wouldn't be a PDO required.
Okay. David, is there anything you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
Nothing I'd like to add. David Hodge, attorney for the applicant, and I'll answer any questions that anybody on the commission or neighbors have.
Okay, are there any questions from the commission? I know Dave Paul is interested in speaking regarding the area commission, so I'll give him a chance to weigh in.
Thank you, Chair Fitzpatrick. Our committee met with Mr. Hodge and the applicants in February of this year, and our committee did recommend approval of this application with two conditions. And I don't know if those conditions are satisfied in your packet or not, and perhaps Mr. Hodge will address that. Our committee understood the underlying need for the rezoning, and we supported that. However, the applicant was requesting to vary from the district that they're requesting, C3, in that they wish to not screen a dumpster and they wish to avoid screening along the southern property line. Our committee did not support those two variances, so we asked the applicant to remove those. And with those conditions being satisfied, we are recommending support or recommending approval.
All right, we will ask those questions and follow through. I don't believe there are any other speakers. So David, what's your comment regarding screening the south property line and the dumpster?
Sure. I wonder if we could go back, and I don't know who's driving this, go back and show the site plan so we could refer to that as I address Mr. Pohl's remarks. So essentially, what Northland concluded as conditions for their recommendation of approval were two things. They would like to see the dumpster, which is located here. If you're able to see my, lower right-hand corner of the property, if you guys can see that.
Right.
And then there's a code requirement that says that the southern perimeter of the property needs to be buffered because the church to the south is zoned residentially. But as you can see from the site plan, that is a drive aisle along the southern portion of the property for a church complex that resides there. These are all existing conditions, and at least from our perspective, we believe that the policy purpose behind the screening requirement is to buffer commercial from residential uses, not drive aisles and church uses. So we unfortunately disagree with Northland that the southern perimeter needs to be buffered because it's not residentially used. The dumpster likewise does not need to be screened. I think it's noteworthy that in your package is a letter of, or two letters of support, one of which I believe is from the church pastor and the property owner here to the south.
David, I, for one, even though it's a church, even though it's a drive aisle, I believe it's not out of the question to ask for that block of parking to be screened by some landscaping. I don't know that I would go so far as to say you had to build a fence around the dumpster, but one row of evergreens along that edge of the parking lot would do a lot for maintaining some independence. And it probably would serve both properties, the church and this CVS, quite well.
Yes, sir, Chairman Fitzpatrick. We're happy to do that. If the landscaping is limited to the southern limits of the church parking lot and it's either a board-on-board fence or a row of arborvitae, my client will do that.
All right. Does any commission member have any other comments? Okay, I'd like to have a motion to stipulate in the text that there'll be either the board-on-board fence or the arborvitae, as Dave suggested, and the 62-foot length of the parking lot at the southeast corner of the site.
This is Marty, so moved.
Okay, Marty, second?
Second.
Okay, second. All right, voice vote. All those in favor of that motion? Aye?
Aye.
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 Okay, please call the roll.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Ken Wukwe,
Yes.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
and Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, case number 4 was tabled earlier this evening, so we will go to case number 5, which is Z20-017 5364 Thompson Road.
Within your supplemental packet, you will find several letters of opposition from owners within the adjacent subdivision. The site consists of one parcel recently annexed from Blendon Township, developed with a single unit dwelling in the R Rural District. The applicant is requesting the AR1 Apartment Residential District to permit a multi-unit residential development. To the north and east of the site is a multi-unit residential development in the PUD8 Planned Unit Development District. To the west are single unit dwellings in the PUD8 Planned Unit Development District. To the south, across Thompson Road, is undeveloped land in the PUD8 Planned Unit Development District. Concurrent CV 21-021, which commits to a site plan and has a maximum number of 88 dwelling units, has been filed to vary the perimeter yard. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. And I think there's a typo in this. I believe it's CV 20-021. The site is within the planning area of the Northland Plan Volume 2, which recommends preserve district for this location, calling for a mix of single unit and multi-unit residential uses with some commercial uses. No specific land use guidelines apply to this site. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northland Community Council, whose recommendation is for disapproval. The requested AR1 apartment residential. Sorry, I'm getting some feedback. I'll try again. The requested AR1 apartment residential district will allow a residential development that is compatible with the density and development standards of adjacent residential developments. The proposal is also consistent with the land use recommendations of the Northland Plan Volume 2. Planning Division staff is supportive of the proposed site plan included with the concurrent council variance, which includes a central green space and provides pedestrian connectivity throughout the development. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments from the commission? Okay, Dan, any traffic issues on this site?
All traffic issues are resolved.
And Kathy, Recreation and Parks? I don't hear Kathy, and I can't see her shake her head, so we'll follow up on that. Okay, there are some speakers.
I can just chime in. For parks, there would be a parkland dedication ordinance requirement, and most likely they would be requesting a fee in lieu, and there may be some standard comments during final site compliance review that addresses street trees and whatnot.
All right. On this case, we will be hearing from Dave Paul, and there are 3 speakers who are against this proposal. So let's have David. David Hodge, do you want to speak to?
Yes, please.
Okay, please add any comments you have.
Okay, great. Shannon, I wonder if someone there can allow me to share my screen.
I think you are.
Oh, I am already?
I see a rendering.
I think so.
Okay, beautiful. Okay, I didn't know. I tried it and it worked, but I didn't know if it was just me seeing it or if it was everybody. Chairman Fitzpatrick, members of the commission, again, David Hodge, attorney for the applicant and property owner here. This is in some ways a leftover piece of property. The previous owner was a holdout. One of those situations where the world kind of grew up around his property, and for long term he was happy where he was and sort of unwilling to participate in the growth. So that's a little bit of background. This is here before the commission tonight with an unconditional approval from city staff. The basis of that approval is, of course, compliance with the area plan, a site plan commitment with the companion council variance, and a commitment to the architectural character that you see on the screen. The property, as staff noted, is practically surrounded with multifamily residential development. There is multifamily to the north, there is multifamily to the east, and there is multifamily to the south of the property. So, on that basis of the Northland plan and the surrounding uses, use of this property for multifamily is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, appropriate. There are some single-family neighbors that are adjacent to this property to the west, and those are some folks that are here this evening and that we will ultimately certainly hear from. We have, through the process, attempted to work with the neighbors over at the Mayfair Bungalows. Unfortunately, the compromises that we've been willing to offer have not led us to the ability to reach an accord with those neighbors. Doesn't mean we haven't tried, doesn't mean that we haven't engaged directly with them, and doesn't mean that we're unwilling to listen tonight to some of their concerns. But I believe in terms of the revisions that have been made to the plan based upon the initial kind of iteration that you see on your screen now to what was filed when the rezoning started. You can see here 25 feet along the western edge, structure to where we are tonight with taking the 25-foot buffer here, reorienting the project, sliding the garage structure to the east so that it's 37 feet away, 12 feet greater than the minimum requirement under the code, taking this northern building, shifting it to the east, 57 feet away from the western edge, so more than double the minimum requirement, taking the pool and putting it down here along the south with this amenity building, making that be the perimeter as opposed to a building edge, either, like we had initially this. So we've worked to try to soften that edge as best we can. Certainly, neighbor participation at the Northland Community Council, a couple of meetings we had with them, and I won't put words in their mouth. They can certainly speak for themselves, but we stand by the notion that the density proposed here at just under 23 units an acre, the existing multifamily nature of Thompson Road and the perimeters of this property, our willingness to work with neighbors and with planning to modify the plan, our willingness to commit to that plan and to this, what I believe to be really excellent architecture, all tips the scale in balance of a recommendation of approval from the Development Commission on to City Council. I'll stop there. My client, Jared Smith, is here with me. Jared, I don't know if there are things that you'd like to add before we kick it back to the commission and hear from neighbors.
I don't have any other.
All right, I don't hear Jared chime in, so I think let's hear from Dave Paul first, and then we'll hear from the three speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fitzpatrick. Dave Paul again, Chair of the Northland Community Council Development Committee. As Mr. Hodge indicated, we've met with him and his client on two separate occasions. Our first meeting on this case, I believe, was in April of last year. And it was a well-attended meeting by community members, particularly residents of the Mayfair bungalows just to the west of the site. I won't go into all the details of that rather long meeting, the rather long session of our meeting, as I recall. But again, we had many speakers from the community who were concerned about this application, in fact, opposed to it. At the end of the meeting, or the end of that session of our meeting, we prevailed on the applicant to consider having the case tabled before us for some time to go back and look at density and a number of other changes. And Mr. Hodge has referenced some changes that were made in the application in the interim. We met again with Mr. Hodge and his client in September. Unfortunately, our committee still felt and we also had additional speakers from the community, still felt that there were a number of issues that prevent us from supporting this application. And I can go into those a little more detail in just a moment. Ultimately, though, our recommendation was for disapproval. That vote was 11-3. And if the chair and the commission will indulge me, I'd like to share my screen because I did, I'll mention, by the way, it's been so long since this meeting, I actually spoke with Mr. Hodge. He was very kind in reminding me what some of the issues were that we presented to him. When we tabled the case, I actually polled our committee members and asked them to expand on their thoughts a little bit. And I'd like to share them with the commission if I could. I don't think it'll take very long. Is that acceptable?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, let me share my screen real quick. And I'm not going to ask you to read all of this text. Are you seeing those, some paragraphs of text?
Not yet.
Okay. Let me know when that comes up.
There it goes.
There you go.
Okay. All right. As I said, I polled our committee members. I asked them to really expand a bit on what their concerns were. When our vote is taken, we don't require that anyone explain their vote. So I felt that in discussing this with the applicant and with Mr. Hodge, I really want a little more information. The bolding is my emphasis in order to save time for you and not require you to read the entire thing. There were really only three groups of comments that stood out to me, and I've included, this is the first slide, the first set of comments. The concerns this member expressed were that this project is immediately next to the bungalows. These comments were based on our April meeting, so changes that were made subsequent to that, I think, were intended to address some of these concerns. Neighbors who met with us were concerned about impact on their properties and in particular their property values. The committee did feel that the density level was very high at at this point, 25 units an acre, I think coming in now at 23 or so. We had also recently received the results of a market study, and it was presented to NCC in May, just a little while prior to this meeting. Actually subsequent to this meeting, but in which we had heard that we have a saturation of apartments in the Northland area. And so committee members were of the opinion that we already have an awful lot of apartments with vacancies in the area. So I'm not sure our committee actually agrees with the applicant that there is a need for this particular project. And again, I think many committee members wanted to maintain the same kind of uses that are adjacent to the west, or something that transitioned better than this particular project did between this group of bungalows and the apartments nearby. Let me go to the next comment. Again, I'm not going to ask you to read this, but the concern was that it's currently zoned for single family. Committee members generally felt that there would be an impact on property values, an impact on traffic on Thompson Road. There was some discussion of that. There were concerns about issues in working with this developer in the past. Apparently, they also developed bungalows to the west, and perhaps there's a little history there. Again, the comment that the Northland area is overbuilt with apartments. And lastly, now the committee is under the impression that our Northland plan calls for 3 or 3.5 units per acre on this site. I understand staff's comments that it doesn't specifically spell out a density, but our sense was that a density significantly less than 25 or 23 units per acre was appropriate. Again, the comment that we have an abundance of apartments and so forth. If the chair or staff would like, I'd be happy to share these comments with them by email as well. So generally, when we met again in September, we acknowledged the applicant had changed the project significantly, but it wasn't enough to overcome the committee's concerns about density and impact on the properties, particularly those to the west. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, I think let's hear from the other three speakers, and then we'll come in with questions after that. I will lay down the ground rules for speakers, both for tonight's session, and also the same rules apply to city council when you get to the next level. 3 speakers, 3 minutes each, and we encourage you not to be redundant. If you've got issues on your mind, we're very good at picking up on those concerns you have and weighing the thoughts accordingly. So the first speaker we have regarding this application is John Davis.
This is Anthony Kandari. I will be going first, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'm Anthony Kandari. My wife Anita and I live at 4128 Hannah Jane, and our back porch faces the 5364 Thompson Road project. It is very disappointing that after 2 reviews by the Northland Community Council and an overwhelming 11-3 vote to not approve the zoning change, that the developer has ignored the community at large and pushed forward for this change. Preferred Living is the 5364 Thompson Road LLC developer and is also the developer for Mayfair Bungalows. The NCC asked the developer to work with the residents of Mayfair Bungalows to address their concerns. Preferred Living's representative met with us. We told the representative that the apartment buildings were too close to our homes. And we propose that Preferred Living deed 44 feet of green space to the HOA and then build from the 25-foot setback. I'd also like to note at this time that the plan that was submitted in November to the city of Columbus has never been shared with us, other than the fact that we were able to find it on the city site. The Planning Commission notes talk about green space and noted that this plan satisfies it. Let me describe the plan. A central parking lot with 4 trees and buildings on the perimeter with essentially no green space. Stormwater retention pond acreage is included in the density calculation. Excluding the pond, the density is closer to 26 apartments per acre, which is 25% greater than Palmer House. We have observed many people from Palmer House apartments exercising their dogs on the 5364 property. If there isn't enough green space for the current residents of Palmer House in their complex, and the 5364 Thompson plan density is 25% greater, then the green space plan for Thompson Road is inadequate, and the number of apartments and corresponding apartment density should be reduced. Now I want to speak about the relationship of the Mayfair Bungalow homeowners with the developer. For over a year, the homeowners have tried to meet with the HOA board about community concerns and have been rebuffed or ignored. Preferred Living COO/CFO and Finance Director are the sole HOA board members. The HOA board refuses to communicate with the homeowners, but when Preferred Living wants something, then they send their chief development officer to talk to us. The homeowners have hired legal counsel to enforce our rights. Many hours have been spent identifying issues in the community that the developer has not addressed. The legal effort of the homeowners has resulted in a significant restatement of the financial condition of the HOA in favor of the homeowners. In good faith, the homeowners contracted for homes with the expectation that they would control the HOA when the developer built and sold the last lot. The last house was completed in January 2019, 2 years ago. The developer has continued to retain control by leasing 3 properties instead of selling them in this hot seller's market. Yes, the Ohio Revised Code gives the developer the right to retain control, but is it right? This is the developer that wants to overbuild on the Thompson property and add another 204 units in Boulevard 3. I submitted additional information in the supplemental material that covered my statements at the NCC meetings in April and September. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Which John Davis or
John Davis.
Mr. White? Okay, John.
Hi, my name is John Davis. My wife Deanna and I live at 6354 Thomas Jeffrey Lane in the Mayfair Bungalows. Although my home is not within the 125 feet of new apartment development, I have a concerned interest in this project. We, however, agree with all the collective community comments provided by Anthony Kandari, Miriam White, and others that have written statements opposing the development. Our home faces directly south to the Palmer House apartments and potentially this new apartment complex at 5364 Thompson Road. Just so everyone is aware, Preferred Living has a financial interest in the Palmer House and Clifton Park apartments adjacent to our community. Directly across from our home, Mayfair Bungalows has a private community gazebo pavilion amenity with a gas fire pit, a gas barbecue, and outdoor furniture for our private community use. The gazebo pavilion has signs posted to no trespassing and for Mayfair Bungalows private use for homeowners only. I would like to address the concern we have with regards to more apartment tenants trespassing, using our private amenities, parking cars in our community, and using our common areas to exercise their pets. Over the course of the past 2 years since I moved into a community, I have been our community watch as necessary to ward off apartment tenants attempting to use our amenities at all hours of the day. We have experienced many intrusions and trespassing by apartment tenants using our amenities. I have met with 4 different Palmer House Clifton Park managers since late 2019 to get communication to the tenants to not trespass on our private property. In 2020 alone, I have documented over 20 such intrusions, not to mention we continue to have tenants exercising their pets and leaving waste. I also attached an intrusion spreadsheet to this that I submitted. Our concern is more intrusion issues from another apartment complex to be built next to our community by Preferred Living. We have sent emails to our HOA manager and Preferred Living with no responsive help. Until now, Preferred Living, a seasoned developer, has failed to fix the situation they created by not restricting access to the Mayfair Bungalows common property by Palmer House and Clifton Park residents. Now that P&L wants to build more apartments, Preferred Living has now attempted to address these issues with a fence we requested, which would restrict entry to our Mayfair Bungalows property. Preferred Living attempted to create a good neighbor document that conditioned the fencing between the Mayfair Bungalows HOA property and Palmer House Apartments upon rezoning approval of 5364 Thompson Road, LLC, by the City of Columbus. This is unacceptable as we requested the fencing to be installed prior to any development and rezoning. In addition, the good neighbor agreement drawn up was addressed to NCC and excludes the Mayfair Bungalow homeowners as a party to this agreement. NCC agreed the agreement should have been addressed to Mayfair Bungalows and not to NCC. That's what I have for now, and I would like to turn it over to Miriam.
Okay, Miriam, are you, okay, there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Miriam White, and I live at 4134 Hannah James. As you have already heard from my fellow neighbors, we have outlined the issues that we have with this application and with the current developers who has presented this application. Just so you're aware, as my neighbors have already indicated, 5364 LLC is Preferred Living, the developer of these apartments. They developed our neighborhood and also controls our HOA. That is a lot of power sitting in one hand. We are asking the Development Commission to do one of three things that will represent the best interest of this area. Disapprove this application and keep the last significant remaining green space on Thompson Road. The Northland Community Council voted 11-3 to disapprove this development. They reviewed it, they voted, and they recommended disapproval. The Development Commission should honor that vote and not overturn the result by approving this application. In the staff report, there is a reference to the Northland Plan, and that Northland Plan that includes this plot of land. However, that plan was created 20 years ago, and I do not believe that it was intended to give developers the right or more rights than homeowners. What I mean is sacrificing our property values of existing homes in favor of development. That plan also talks about and references open spaces. By maintaining the land as is, it will be one of the last significant open spaces in the area. Another option that the commission has is that they could table this application and require that the developer modify and have a development for single-family homes. Preferred Living knows how to do single-family homes because they developed our neighborhood. Single-family homes would fit better in this area and would be a better footprint for this area. The area already has several apartment communities, and Preferred Living is looking to build another 200 units that is part of the Boulevard 3. Do they really need these additional 88 units on this particular plot of land? Many of my neighbors built in this area with some indication from the developer that they were looking to develop more single-family homes, not apartments. I wonder if they would have chose to build here if they would have known that the developer that built the neighborhood was also developing apartments. I did not know at the time I purchased my home that they were developing or thinking developing apartments, I may have made a different choice. Finally, another option that this commission has is to table this application and ask that the developer work more closely with the neighbors. Again, we already know the developer has 200 apartment units available that they are going to be developing nearby. We are willing to work with this developer to establish something that we both can live with, but that is going to require a significant reduction of units. What we are asking is that the development be closer to the existing apartments. As Mr. Hodge indicated, there's apartments already around there. There is no need for any of the buildings to be close to our backyards or our neighborhood. They can move all of those buildings further east and have a nice green space, which means that it would not be in our backyard, be closer to existing apartments. I have included pictures in my written statement that can show you through the green line of what they could do. They could look to maybe eliminate a building and then decide to move everything. Thank you.
Miriam, I'm gonna have to ask you to wrap this up. We're running over the.
I'm done.
Time. Okay.
I'm done. I only had
appreciate
one
your
last
input.
thing. Sir, I only had one last thing. I was a renter prior to owning this home. So I know that renters and homeowners can coexist. We need the green space to improve our quality of life.
Okay, let's bring this back with David. Yeah, I'd like to keep that aerial photo on the display that's on right now. David, you've heard the issues that are presented with density and an existing green space that nobody wants to give up.
Yes, sir. So if I might just take a minute and address some of the issues that I heard from neighbors. You can see the site plan here on your screen. There was general discussion from, I think, multiple folks about the development over here being too close to the rear of their homes over here at Mayfair. We have attempted to address the issue by redoing the site plan through several different iterations, resulting in not, a side of a building being located along that perimeter so that they're looking at that, but rather the end here, the lower garage structure, and down here, the pool with the significant setbacks all along. Again, the minimum code requirement is 25, and we, the closest we are is 37 with the low, one-story garage structure. So I think there was another comment about no green space on the perimeter. It might not be a single-family house on practically 4 acres anymore, certainly, but we are providing green space along the perimeter. And if the Mayfair Bungalows neighbors prefer that we come in and, maintain this existing perimeter and put up a vinyl fence or a basket weave fence or a board-on-board fence, those are all things that Preferred Living is willing to do and commit to here on this plan as an additional buffer. There was considerable discussion about the relationship with Preferred Living. I think on one of the earlier cases tonight, Chairman Fitzpatrick, your comment was, we're here to talk about land use, and that's what we're here to talk about. When you talk about land use here, when you talk about north, east, south, the Northland Plan, the commitment to this plan, the commitment, and I'll come back to this, but the commitment to this architecture, no traffic issues, no park issues. It is, in my mind, undeniable that this proposal is an appropriate land use of the property. Now, there was a discussion about overbuilding. I don't think that 22 units to the acre is overbuilding. 22 units to the acre might have been overbuilding in 2001 when we were all doing, you know, AR12 or God forbid ARLD at 16 units per acre, but that's not what we're doing in 2021. We all know that we don't have enough housing in our market. And whether this is, you know, tax abated or not, the more housing we get out there, the better control we get on our costs, the more equity that is created for the community as a whole. So, you know, we heard, I think, commentary about just generally not liking the experience of living in a neighborhood where there are apartments in the proximity. To me, that really doesn't have anything to do with the land use of this piece. That has as much to do with the land use of the existing multifamily that you see here north and east of the project. You know, there was discussion about the Northland plan and its age, and you know, certainly it is older. I don't know whether city planning, who's in full support of this, applied the C2 P2 or not, but city planning, who authors that plan with area commissions, is in full support based upon our plan and architectural character commitments. And what that plan says is that this general vicinity is supposed to develop with a mix of single, multi-unit residential with some commercial uses built in. And if you refer back to the zoning map, which was an earlier exhibit and is hopefully on your screen here, you can see sort of what was envisioned by that Northland plan, and you can see that there's been some reasonable adherence to that plan in terms of the way the neighborhood has developed. You see the commercial over here along the Hamilton Road commercial corridor, and you see a mixture of institutional uses, of multifamily residential, of single family residential, just exactly as was called for under the plan. So, you know, God knows I wish that, like the last case, there were a couple of letters of support in your package. But just because there are some adjacent property owners that aren't strictly adherent to what we're proposing does not mean that it's inappropriate, and it does not mean that we have not worked in earnest to address their issues, both in terms of protecting their perimeter and even reducing the density of the project as an accommodation to some of their concerns. So I've said too much. I'll stop there, and between Jared and I, we'll answer your questions. Thank you.
Chairman, as a homeowner, can I have 2 minutes to respond to Mr. Hodge?
Let's go through the commission first. First of all, I'd like to ask, is there any comment or input from the commission members as they look? Keep that photograph up, right? The actual photograph of existing conditions with the empty lot. There you go. Palmer Square, that's 3-story buildings?
Yes, sir. The adjacent multifamily is consistent with the height being proposed here. You know, that's one of the things when you're talking about is a development too dense, you know, then you're talking about parking reductions and height variances and various things. None of those things here. So that adjacent residential is like this, like the proposal before you, 3 stories.
All right. My comments, I'll just keep it simple and straightforward, is the density doesn't bother me. You've moved the buildings back from the west property line. I think in addition to that, you mentioned you would be willing to build a fence. I think that is appropriate, but I also think that the homeowners that are lined up against you on that west property line deserve some evergreens and some deciduous trees for some privacy for their backyards, as well as the 37 and 57 foot or 47 foot space buffer. I think the landscape buffer is important for their continuation of the way they sit on the property. I don't think that anybody can demand that an empty space go unutilized or that single family homes be built there. This does not look like a single family infill to me. I'd ask any commission member that has any other thoughts or comments to speak up now. Anyone?
Mike, I agree with your observations. I think that certainly those homeowners have enjoyed a rather large vista, but the extent of their property and the fact that a developer would come in and add some landscaping and trees along with a fence, would make that a lot more palatable. I think the setback and the way that the site plan has morphed, puts the 3-story buildings next to 3-story buildings, and that it's that the fabric is being respected here.
David, what kind of materials are you planning on these buildings briefly?
Let me ask Jared to jump in here on that if he's able to. He's worked closer with the architects here than I have.
Yep. David, if you can just go back to that Bain rendering page. Consistent with Palmer, Clifton, and then the Mayfair bungalows, it's going to be a mix of brick and then mostly vinyl siding. So if you look at it, the end of the building there's mostly glass on the front. You have kind of towers, so to speak, of brick with some vinyl in there in the middle. The nice rendering or the project that we're kind of excited about with these buildings is in the fact of the way that the buildings break. Most of them are less than 16 feet, which means you even have, in most cases, we're finishing design right now, no vinyl seams, even in of themselves. And as vinyls continue to improve, it's harder and harder to tell what's vinyl and what's hardy.
So Jared, if I might ask you a question, well, actually, never mind. Sorry to interrupt. We'll go on with commission.
Does any other commission member besides John have any input or questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Kay.
Yes, Kay.
I think when you look at the site plan and then look at the rendering, it looks like what is being proposed is actually in context with the surrounding buildings. I can understand the concern the neighbors are having based on what they have been experiencing. But the idea of the chairman suggesting for introduction of some type of this evergreen trees will help create that visual vista for them and then have a physical break from the 3-story building they'll be looking at. So I think the site plan is very attentive to the neighbors.
Okay, Amanda, any comments, or Maria? Marty?
Well, I was going to wait for Amanda and Maria, and then
okay. Okay.
No, it's kind of a transition space. I mean, there's no. It's nice, as John had said, it's nice to have property, be next to open space, and the only way to ensure that stays there is to go ahead and buy it. That's not the case here, and I think having it transition in the way the plan is put forward from kind of the more intense next to the more intense down to the 1-story parking, I think is an acceptable approach. The issue of too much apartments, that's a marketing decision. That's not really a land use. That's, you presume that the developer has done their homework and wouldn't try to throw money away.
Okay, Maria?
I agree with all the comments that have been made. I think it's an appropriate use. I think the architecture looks nice and will blend nicely when we add the additional screening opportunities.
And Marty?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I usually listen very intently to the Northland Community Council members because I think they're some of the most thoughtful and historically skilled of the community councils. What bothers me a little bit is that when you listen to the Mayfair bungalow residents, there's, and you know that the same developer is now proposing that which is in front of us. I think those residents, especially if they've not been able to take over their own HOA, I can understand their concern, especially if they were made certain assurances or promises, which I can't tell you that I have any way to validate. But I do hear the Northland Community Council, and I think the Mayfair bungalow residents deserve as much screening and as much accommodation as can possibly be done here.
Okay.
We agree with you, Ms. Anderson, and are willing to come along the entire western perimeter of this develop a very nice landscape plan treatment to include fencing, evergreens, possibly arborvitae, whatever the landscape architect dreams up, and commit to that as a part of the companion council variance, which we are committing to the site plan on.
David, I would also recommend that you have the landscape architect work in some deciduous trees to get a canopy for privacy with 3 stories adjacent to the single family.
Agreed.
Okay, Shannon, can you put that into the proper text as a motion?
Yes, so there will be additional landscaping and screening, including evergreens and deciduous trees in the west buffer, in the west perimeter yard area, and a fence. And a fence. And
okay,
we'll have staff review that.
Right.
We'll have planning division staff and park and rec staff and zoning staff all look at that to make sure that it looks like it's going to be a good buffer.
All right, just for the sake of propriety, I'd like a motion for that added clause to be inserted into the text. Please give me a motion.
So moved.
Amanda moved. Who wants a second?
Second.
Okay, seconds. All right. Voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, please call the roll.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
Ken Wukwe,
Yes.
did I already call John? Sorry, I lost my spot.
You did.
Okay, then
Yes.
Marty Anderson
No.
and Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved. And we will.
Thank you all very much.
For the information for all parties, we will be filling out an information form. We call it a basis sheet. And this will go to City Council to inform City Council of our thoughts, pro and con, regarding this application. But I think if this was part of the Palmer House original zoning, this would have been swept in quite easily as a compatible use. So the information form will be submitted and will go forward to City Council with a vote of approval. Okay, we will now it's 7:15. We can go, let's go through one more case at least, and then we'll decide if we're going to take a break or keep pressing on. So let's go to case number 6, Z21-004 790 North Nelson Road.
Okay, the site consists of one parcel developed with a former branch of the Columbus Metropolitan Library in the R4 residential and C4 commercial districts. The requested CPD commercial plan development district will permit the site to be redeveloped. The City of Columbus Police and Fire Joint Wellness Center to provide mental health and wellness counseling services for the city's first responders. North of the site is a gas station in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. South and east of the site is Shepherd Park in the R4 Residential District. And west of the site are single unit dwellings in the R4 Residential District. The site is within the planning boundaries of the North Central Plan, which recommends parkland use at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the North Central Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The CPD text establishes use restrictions and supplemental development standards that address building and parking setbacks, traffic access, pedestrian connectivity, parking requirements, parking lot landscaping and screening, and street trees. The text includes variances to parking lot screening, parking lot shade trees, screening between commercial and residential districts, sidewalk connection, and the maximum number of parking spaces permitted. Additionally, the text includes a commitment to develop the site as shown on the submitted site plan. The requested CPD Commercial Plan Development District will permit C2 uses that includes a medical office with counseling services to accommodate the City of Columbus Police and Fire Joint Wellness Center. The CPD text establishes appropriate use restrictions and development standards and includes a commitment to develop the site in accordance with the submitted site plan. While the proposed CPD district is not consistent with the North Central Plan's recommendation for parkland uses at this site, the request will permit the redevelopment of a former branch of the Columbus Metropolitan Library and will not add incompatible land uses to the area. Additionally, the proposed variances are supportable because of the specific type of services provided at this location, resulting in increased security needs. Therefore, City Department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions? Dan, traffic issues?
All traffic issues are resolved.
And recreation and parks, Kathy?
No recreation parks issues.
Okay, does any commission member have any comment or questions for the staff? Okay, the applicant is Mike Jones. Are you here to speak?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay, is there anything, Mike, you'd like to add to the staff presentation?
Yeah, I think Tim did we'll go over everything regarding the project here. But basically, this is a project. It will be a mental health facility for sorry, but bear with me. I have a speech impediment, so I'll try to speak clear as I can here. But this is a project here that is the mayor's one of the goals this year to improve public safety for the better. Right now, officers and firefighters, their job is taxing and it's very, very taboo right now for them to speak on their mental health. So our goal here is to create a building or a place that is dedicated, just for them to counseling, where they feel safe, where they're judged, where it's judgment free and private, and they feel welcome to get help. So that's really it for me.
All right, Mike, you have achieved staff approval and unanimous area commission approval, and that's not always easy to do. Is there any other speaker regarding this application?
There is Alexis. Do you have anything on this?
Alexis?
Yeah, my name is Alexis. I'm with Mullen Weithman Architects, the architects on this project. At this point, I think both Tim and Mike have done a great job on this presentation, but am available if anyone has any questions or concerns they want addressed.
Any questions by commission members? Okay, I think you've been pretty thorough and you've gotten the most important approvals next to ours, of course. So I think we're ready to call the roll, Mike.
Ken Wookwe?
Yes.
Marty Anderson?
Yes.
Maria Conroy?
Yes.
Amanda Golden?
Yes.
John Ingwerson?
Yes.
and Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Great, thank
Also,
you.
thank you.
Okay, we'll do one more case and then we'll take a poll on whether we take a break or not. Case number 7, Z21-006, 4398 Trayview Road.
The 10.11 acre site consists of one parcel developed with a single unit dwelling in the R1 residential district. The requested LC2 limited commercial district will permit office commercial development. The site is surrounded by industrial development to the north, east, and west in the M2 manufacturing district. To the south across Trayview Road are a single unit subdivision in the R2 residential district and undeveloped land slated for an apartment complex in the LARLD limited apartment residential district. The site is located within the planning area of the Trayview Roberts area plan, which recommends employment center uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the West Scioto Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. I did get an email recommendation shortly after I had already emailed the supplemental packet information, so it was not included in the supplemental packet, but the recommendation is for approval 7-0. The limitation text establishes use restrictions and supplemental development standards that address building and parking setbacks, traffic access, increased landscaping and screening, and lighting controls. The text also includes a commitment to development of the site in accordance with the submitted site plan and building elevations for parcel B1. The requested LC2 limited commercial district will permit redevelopment of the site with office and related uses. The limitation text includes increased development standards in consideration of the residential uses to the south, and access is restricted via a private driveway from Arlingate Lane. The request is consistent with the employment center land use recommendation of the Trayview Roberts area plan and is compatible with the surrounding industrial and residential development. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval, and I would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Dan, any traffic issues here?
All traffic issues are resolved.
Okay, and Kathy, Recreation and Parks?
There are no recreation parks issues.
Wonderful. Okay, are there any questions from any of the commission members? Okay, Jill Fangelman, do you want to add anything to the staff presentation? I see you have achieved approval from both the area commission and the staff, so.
No, I don't have anything further to add. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions or comments for Jill? And there were no speakers signed up for this, so I'm assuming there are no outside speakers. Thus, we are ready to call the roll.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Kayan Wukwe,
Yes.
and Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes. Okay, you are approved.
Thank you.
And since we are on a roll right now, we are going past case number 8, which has been tabled. We will go into case number 9, Z19-038 3553 Refugee Road.
The 1.87 acre site consists of a single split zoned parcel being utilized for automobile sales without zoning clearance in the C2 commercial and R rural districts. Order number 19470-1296 has been filed by code enforcement for not being a permitted use, parking or keeping inoperable motor vehicles, and not having a certificate of zoning clearance. The applicant requests the LC4 limited commercial district in order to allow a variety of general commercial uses as well as the automobile sales on the lot. North across Refugee Road is undeveloped land in the RRR restricted rural residential district. To the east is a small strip shopping plaza and other commercial buildings in the LC4 limited commercial district. To the south is a single-unit subdivision in the R2 residential district. To the west is an automobile sales lot in the RC4 limited commercial district. The site is not located within a planning area, but is subject to the recommendations of Columbus Citywide Planning Policies Design Guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Mid-East Area Commission, whose recommendation is pending their April 20th, 2021 meeting. The request was previously considered as an unrestricted C4 district by the Mid-East Area Community Collaborative in 2019 with a recommendation of disapproval. The limitation text contains use restrictions and includes setbacks, landscaping, screening, and tree preservation provisions. A site plan commitment is included in the limitation text, which demonstrates removal of pavement within the required parking setback area with landscaping installed. The requested LC4 limited commercial district will secure proper zoning for an automobile sales lot. The limitation text contains use restrictions and includes setbacks, landscaping, screening, and tree preservation provisions. The request is consistent with the established development pattern along Refugee Road and includes appropriate buffering from the residential development that abuts the site to the south. Therefore, staff's recommendation is for approval. I did want to note that we did receive one letter. It wasn't really an opposition, it was more a letter of concern from an adjacent property owner to the south. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Just briefly, what was that concern?
It sounded like there were some tree areas that were removed, and the resident could visibly see parking of campers and boats in the rear property, which would not be permitted by this LC4 district. I was hoping that the applicant may have information if any of that was still occurring on this property.
Okay.
Oh, this is Jean Cabral. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. There are some vehicles there now. They cleared out a lot of things. They bought this property a couple of years ago, and it's been a used car lot sales for over 20 years, but it was never zoned for it. It was zoned C2. And so they didn't know that when they bought it. So we've been in the process for a little while, which is why we're going to the LC4 to exclude a lot of uses. But everything's going to they've cleaned up a great deal a lot, but not everything. There's a big treed area, fairly dense, abutting the residential property, and the fence is falling down. So part of this is installing the fence for repairing it and putting a new fence in, whatever we need to do in order to meet the requirements of the Columbus zoning code. And anything we're going to still apply for a site compliance plan, and in that, anything that needs corrected will be corrected as part of that application process. Setbacks, landscaping, fencing, all of that, parking spaces.
Very good. Daniel, any traffic issues on this narrow piece of property?
All traffic issues are resolved.
And Kathy, Recreation and Parks?
There are no recreation and parks issues.
Okay. Does anyone on the commission have any comments?
Mike, this is John.
Yes,
John. Are there any variances being asked for?
No, there's not.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Anyone else on the commission have any questions? Okay, I believe, even though this is a really long, narrow lot, if I lived in that house facing stored vehicles and unknown futures, I would certainly appreciate a fence and some evergreens and maybe one deciduous tree to balance things out along that south property line. Is that, Jean, is that something
Yes.
your client can do?
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
And it's part of the site plan that we submitted, and it'll be part of the site compliance site plan that we.
I mean, you show a trees area, but I would like the text to.
There are already trees there. It's pretty dense. There's a lot of brush there, so that some of that just needs to be cleaned up. But we'd be we'll definitely. The fence is a mandatory, as well as we'll make it make them hopefully make them happy. One of the problems has been the property to the left of them until they got a new owner was crushing cars illegally, and so there was a lot of noise and such in the neighborhood. And on the other side, there's a lot of car repair that's legal. So there's noise during the day, and that's unfortunately what happens. But I did measure. I live on Bexley Park, north of Main Street. I'm 750 feet to Main Street, the back of my house. The back of their parking for the cars for sale is 750 feet to the first house. So it's a good distance. It's a good distance, but there is going to be a buffer of 100 feet, no build zone at the rear of the property. So nothing can be done in that 100 feet.
All right. A matter of housekeeping here. Since the Mideast Area Commission does not meet for 12 more days,
right?
Our vote here tonight is provisional based on you getting through the Area Commission with an approval. If you don't achieve the approval, then you got to come back and see us.
Well, Shannon had said that if you take the first recommendation, which was for disapproval, and weigh that into tonight's vote, then that would stand. Is that true, Shannon? Is that what we had talked about?
If the Development Commission wishes to just consider the Area Commission recommendation a disapproval, then I guess you could just weigh it as that.
If we say that the Area Commission was in disapproval, I can't understand with car crushing and some of the other things happening in the area why this would be a problem.
The thing was, the disapproval was based on just going to a straight C4, and since that time we met on site with the Area Commission. I haven't gotten anything from them, and that was quite a while ago, as far as their approval or disapproval goes. For this new limited, the LC4, which eliminates a lot of noxious uses like halfway houses and truck facilities and driving training centers and all kinds of crazy stuff that would create. I tried to eliminate anything that would create noise, adverse noise to the neighbors, or any kind of machinery noises or car noises. So that's what I put in the limited text, was taking a lot of those things out.
Yeah, I think what you have here is a less intensive use than anywhere near this piece of property with the LC4.
Yeah.
Straight C4 is a different story.
Correct. Yeah.
So based on the LC4, I think we should just go ahead and have the vote and go forward.
Like, for instance, I took out all like power equipment and vending machine operators, anything that would be lifting things, clunking, making clunking noises all day long, even at night too. So that's what I tried. And things like bars, cabarets, nightclubs, farm equipment, garden sales, bowling alleys, any noisy kind of noxious.
Just to be consistent with everything we've done for over 10 years, we really have to do a provisional vote. I can't imagine you would be disapproved by the Area Commission with a limited C4 or limited LC4. So,
well, the feedback I had gotten from them the first time around, and even the second when we went back, was that they didn't want another car sales in their neighborhood. But there's 3 car sales within 3 lots of each other right here, and car repair. And so it's kind of, and I've been there at that use group for 22 years. That's the kind of, and I understand that they want to beautify the neighborhood, but at the same time, people need cars, and cars are for sale. And that seemed to be the big objection.
Well, I think you're headed in the right direction, but we can only go so far with this unknown hanging out in midair.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have helped people keep the ball rolling forward by casting a vote, assuming that you'll get a positive response at your Area Commission. If you do not, you'll have to go back on the agenda and come back through, and we'll have to weigh that just to be consistent with what we've been doing multiple times.
Okay.
So with the, Shannon, does that have to be written into the minutes of this hearing?
Yeah, since it will be a conditional vote, we'll list what that condition is, which is a positive recommendation from the Mid-East Area Commission.
Okay, I don't see it going the other way, but we have to be consistent with what we do for everybody. So that being the case, I believe we're ready to call the roll.
Maria Conroy?
Yes.
Amanda Golden?
Yes.
John Ingwerson?
Yes.
Kay Nwukwe?
Yes.
Marty Anderson?
Yes.
And Chair Fitzpatrick?
Yes, you're approved.
Thank you for your time.
Now, a very important vote among the team here. Does anyone need to take a break in the agenda? It's 7:35. We can take a break or we can press on. Is everybody okay?
Yep.
All right, let's keep the ball rolling. It's 7:37. Let's move on with case number 10. Z21-001 3650 Sunbury Road.
Okay, the site consists of one parcel developed with a religious facility and school, split zoned in the R1 residential district and PUD 8 plan unit residential district. The site is subject to ordinance 2082-2018, passed on July 30th, 2018, and is conditioned on the rezoning of the site within 5 years of passage. The requested I institutional district will permit the existing religious facility and school uses. North of the site is a single unit dwelling in the R1 residential district. South of the site are single unit dwellings in the R1 residential district and vacant land in the LC2 limited commercial district. East of the site is vacant land in the LSR limited suburban residential district. And west of the site are single unit dwellings in the R1 residential district and R rural district in Mifflin Township. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Northeast Area Plan, which recommends institutional land uses at this location. The site is located within the boundaries of the Northeast Area Commission, whose recommendation had not been received at the time this report is written. It is my understanding that the applicant did get a positive vote from the Northeast Area Commission. I just have not received that form from them yet. So if you have questions for the applicant, I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any. The requested I institutional district will permit the existing religious facility and school uses on site. The request meets ordinance 2082-2018's condition for rezoning within 5 years of passage. The proposed I district is consistent with the Northeast Area Plan's land use recommendation for institutional land uses at this location. And additionally, the proposed zoning district will not add incompatible uses to the area. Therefore, the city department's recommendation is for approval, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions for Tim? Dan, traffic issues?
We don't have any issues with this application.
Okay, and Kathy, how about Recreation and Parks?
We have no concerns with this application.
Okay, case number 10 does not show any speakers. The applicant, is the applicant here?
Yes, I'm here. This is Delane Cox.
Okay, Delane, is there anything you want to add to the staff's presentation?
Thank you. I would just say that, yes, we did attend the Northeast Area Commission session last week and did receive approval. And they said that they would forward that through the mail.
All right. All right, then you achieved staff approval and area commission approval, and there's no one here to oppose you, so we are ready to call the roll.
Amanda Golden?
Yes.
John Ingwerson?
Yes.
Kay Nwukwe?
Yes.
Marty Anderson?
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
and Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes, you are approved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to case number 11. Z20-115, 5949 Central College Road.
Within your supplemental packet, there's a revised site plan showing a new write-in, write-out configuration. That plan is dated the same date as the plan in the staff report, so I'd say for the purposes of giving a date, we'll say that it's dated today, April 8th. There's also a letter of opposition from the adjacent condominium complex. The site is undeveloped in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. The applicant proposes the LC4 limited district for a portion of the site. Subarea A is proposed for approximately 6,100 square feet of retail use, 2,000 square feet of restaurant use, and 12 residential units for a mixed-use building. Subarea B is proposed for approximately 6,000 square feet of retail, 6,000 square feet of restaurant, 1,800 square feet of patio, and 12,000 square feet of office, and 10 residential units for a mixed-use building. The applicant proposes the unrestricted ARLD apartment residential district for the remainder of the site, which is considered Subarea C, in order to construct a multi-unit residential development. To the north of the site, across Central College Road, is multi-unit residential development in the LARLD Limited Apartment Residential District. To the south and east are multi-unit residential developments in the LARO Limited Apartment Office District. To the east is undeveloped land in the CPD Commercial Plan Development District. Concurrent CV20-129 has been filed to vary parking, perimeter landscaping, screening, minimum number of parking spaces required, fronting, aisle width, and maneuvering, and includes a commitment to a site plan. That request will be heard by City Council and will not be considered at this Development Commission meeting. The site is located within the boundaries of the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord panel, whose recommendation is for approval. That panel recommends the applicant work with the Recreation and Parks Department to further explore the development of a creek trail within the vicinity of the stream corridor protection zone with connectivity to the site, and to incorporate additional bicycle parking, specifically in subarea B and C, noting these are encouraged but not conditions of approval. The limitation text only applies to the LC4 portion of the site, and the text commits to a site plan and includes development standards addressing setbacks, state access, landscaping, building design, and graphics provisions. The requested LC4 limited commercial district will allow a mixed-use development. The proposed uses and density are appropriate based on the location and surrounding developments along Central College Road. Additionally, the applicant is proposing office components, which is in line with the Rocky Fork Blacklick Accord recommended use for the site. The revised site plan and building design are consistent with the recommendations from the plan. While Planning Division is supportive of the proposal, the applicant is encouraged to further consider the development of a trail with connectivity to the site to incorporate additional bicycle parking, specifically within subareas B and C. The request also accommodates an ARLD district for apartment residential development. At the time this report was written, there was still outstanding traffic management comments. I think that those are resolved. There's also an email from Daniel Moorhead in the supplemental packet, but I will let Daniel speak to that. But the staff report recommendation will be updated to approval upon resolution of all of the remaining Division of Traffic Management issues. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, let's find out some facts from Daniel.
Like Shannon mentioned, with the revised site plan, our traffic issues are resolved.
They're all set, okay. And Kathy, stream corridor, some interesting things in your world. What say you?
Yeah, we've had some conversations, and we're willing to work with the applicant to look at some trail connectivity. It's more about some of the details that we need to work out, but we can continue to work on that between now and City Council meetings.
Okay. Does anyone on the commission have any questions or comments of the staff? Okay, the applicant is here. Aaron Underhill, would you like to add anything to what the staff has said so far?
Hello, Chair Fitzpatrick. My name is Aries Artman. I'm an attorney at Aaron Underhill's Underhill and Hodges law firm. I'll be representing the applicant on this case. The applicant, Ethan Sage, is here. He's the principal at Grenaz Development. Should you have any questions for him later in the presentation.
All right.
Thank you, Shane, for the intro. I don't have too much to add, other than regarding the additional bicycle parking. That is something that we believe is appropriate, and we'll work to include that on the site plan. And then at the encouragement of the Rocky Fork Black Lick Accord, we reached out to Kathy regarding what kind of options would be available for a trail on the western perimeter. Right now, if you can see our site plan, the proposed buildings are right up against the stream corridor protection zone. So we asked what kind of options there might be available for doing a trail through the along the edge of the stream corridor protection zone. As Kathy said, that is something that the applicant is interested in doing, should that be permitted. Kathy initially said it might be discouraged, but as she said, we'll continue working with her to see if there's anything we can do to try to get that connectivity from subarea A to subarea C. I don't have anything else to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
All right, let's go. I think there's a speaker, Mr. McElroy. Is he in the?
Yes, I'm here.
Would you like to speak, sir?
Yes, I appreciate the time. I'm speaking on behalf of our condominium association. We're 123 units, clubhouse and pool area. And I've polled the people most affected by this. It's the residents that are along the Marnie, which is on the west end of their property, and the Rothwell people on the south end. This development is in conjunction with the property that they're developing just to the east, which is the Bubbly Way Street that has been renamed, and it's the Bubbly Hall. And a major concern, I guess, is for us is property values and setbacks and buffering. The one thing about when I read the application, the buffering and the landscaping, the south easement, I guess it's a subsection 8C is what we're most concerned about, which confronts on our property, is that this area comes up and the actual boundary comes to the gas easement. They've indicated a 25-foot setback from the easement. And I guess our concern is the site plan indicates two apartment buildings of 2 stories, I believe, in talking with Ethan on that property. We're concerned that those are right up on the edge of that property line. And again, we're looking for a little more buffering or hoping there'll be some more. And as others have mentioned, fencing, landscaping, and something to keep our area a little more private. With these 2 developments, we're starting to see increased traffic and those kind of things in the area. We're also concerned with the increase in the commercial products on both these properties of the sound and the noise, depending on what kind of properties are in there. The other major thing we have concern about is the traffic. I know they said there's been resolved to the section of Central College, but this Bubbly Way, which is the street that goes north-south between the 2 properties, connects to our Rothwell Street, which is our main thoroughfare through our community. Our Rothwell Street is maintained and repaired by our association. It's not a public street. And our concern is with this increased traffic, there is going to be more maintenance of this. The other thing is the storm sewers from portion of the parking drain into our ponds. we've had in the past issues with drainage into that pond, and we're worried about silting and buildup and things like that. So those are major concerns. We would wish they'd consider, in addition, possibly closing off that access to our street and have all their exits and entrances off of Central College, or they do have through the other property to New Albany Road West. Ours is an older community. There's a concern for safety and a concern for increased pedestrian and dog traffic and things like that. So the fencing in some way of protecting our property from theirs is one of the big ones that we're concerned about too, I guess. So, although it may help property values, nobody's over here is convinced that's one of their major concerns. That closeness of the their south property of sub-area C, and with our Rothwell people, additionally, there's some people looking down on the property. Ours are single-story units. There's quite a few along there, and their courtyards face that direction. So those are other concerns we'd like the commission to address too.
Okay. When I look at this site plan, it's been a long time since I've seen lot coverage in the 90+% coverage. It's roofs and asphalt and not much green space anywhere. And I agree that the sub-area C really should respect the adjacent single family, because you got 2- and 3-story large dense buildings abutting with a very tiny area of separation. I don't know what other ideas you've come up with or what other conversations you've had, but.
Well, we did talk with Ethan, and I will say this: they met with us when both projects began in October of last year, and he did listen to our concerns. George Bory is on the call here also as well, and we did have concerns about the closeness to the property on the west end of his property, and he did make some concessions with the catchment basins and the water features and so forth there. But, we're trying to make sure that there's that proper buffering and land, as you said, landscaping, and I believe fencing, of some type to protect our property and limit, because there's going to be increased. I think these two properties both have this is going to be compounding the traffic flow and the number of people in the area because of the restaurants, and we're not sure what type of restaurants, what kind of things will be going into these retail establishments.
Yeah, I have often said that almost every client that ever has come my way has taken out a piece of paper and said, how much can you get on this piece of ground? What's the most parking spaces, buildings, and usable space you can possibly get on this piece of ground? And it looks like almost every inch is devoted to drives, parking, and rooftops. So I'm of a mind to recommend that this be tabled to consider softening up some of the edges of this property with some effective landscaping. Distance isn't always as effective as plantings and fences and combinations of elements that provide privacy from a denser use to a less dense use. But if you fly over this site and look down, you don't see much leeway the way it is presented right now. I would ask some of my comrades on the Development Commission to make some comments regarding what they're looking at as well.
Yeah, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, in this case, sorry about that. Well, you are the president also. Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with you. When I look at the site plan, literally what you see is asphalt.
Yeah.
So, even if the applicant is not willing to table, they need to introduce a lot of trees to help minimize the heat island effect because the asphalt is overwhelming.
That's exactly my take on it too, Kate. Anyone else have a comment?
Yeah, I concur with that. That coverage is concerning, especially in the Black Lake Accord area. My concern is more on the runoff issues that's going to inspire and what that's going to bring, being right next to the waterway.
Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Dave Paul.
Yes, Dave.
Just a quick comment. I'm not completely far into this case because I am one of the representatives of the city of Columbus on the Rocky Fork Accord.
Oh, I thought you were out of bounds here, but you're part of it. Okay.
So yes, I'm wearing a different hat now, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I just did want to echo, excuse me, Mr. McElroy's comment, particularly about concerns that we did discuss as a body about the gas pipeline that traverses this property, and that the developer respect that and try to get as much distance from that gas pipeline as possible. I and one of my colleagues on the panel both voted to recommend approval of the application, but we also expressed to our colleagues and the applicant that concerns us, being familiar with some pipeline safety issues that have occurred throughout the country, and that that pipeline is effectively just outside the windows of some of those residential properties. So that is a point that we were concerned about, discussed at the Rocky Fork panel meeting, and just wanted to encourage you perhaps to investigate that with the applicant a little further. Thank you, sir.
And John Ingerson, you haven't spoken up yet. What do you think? John?
Sorry, I was three screens over in the supplemental package and not not here to unmute. I agree that the buffering needs attended to. I'm not opposed to that development. It fits with the area plans. I just think it needs some trimming around the edges.
All right. And Marty, do you have any comments? Oh, can't hear you.
I was already open on mic, sorry. Mr. Chairman, thank you. I think my comment is probably, and this is unusual, directed to Mr. Paul. Just looking at what everyone has pointed out and some of the concerns, I'm a little surprised that the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord panel did nothing more than encourage, but not make their suggestions conditions of approval, because I would be concerned if this were approved as is.
I think that's a very pertinent comment, and Eric, I think if you could take this message back to your client and ask for some other thoughts and some other alternatives, it would serve you well, because it seems like it's an overplay right now. So I'm going to recommend, I'm going to ask for...
Respectfully, Chair, can I respond to these points, please?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you. First of all, we worked very diligently with the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord across 2 meetings to respond to all of their comments that we could. Overwhelmingly, we responded to many of their comments, and the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord, I'm sorry I don't have the vote in front of me, but there were 2 negative votes, and the rest of the panel voted for recommendation of approval. So it was overwhelmingly support from the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord for this project. The applicant actually has taken great measure to respect the neighbors in any all possible ways they can. For instance, they have 2 They have four-sided architecture on all of these buildings, including the residential buildings that are facing to the south. There are specifically two-story buildings on the which are adjacent to the properties to the south, not three. That was a conscious decision. We specifically put the retention basin on the south. It was originally towards the center of the property, but we moved it to the south in respect of the neighbors to get the apartment buildings off of the property line. It was originally requested by the planning department to have the sidewalk or the path go around the entirety of the retention pond, but we specifically kept it to the north side out of respect of the neighbors to the south, so that there wouldn't be people walking close to that property line. There are challenges with landscaping on this property, especially with the aforementioned gas pipeline. We cannot plant trees or put fencing along this 25-foot pipeline, which is also the setback. So what we did is, client, I believe it was Mr. McElroy, but please correct me if I'm wrong. My client walked the perimeter to identify trees which are worth preserving, so that yes, we can't plant, but we can do our best to preserve those trees. Those are identified on the site plan, 6 on the southern west and 6 on the southern east. So we did a number of things to out of respect for those neighbors. And then also, I don't think the site plan does justice how much green space there actually is on here. The entire western perimeter of this property is a 60-foot stream corridor protection zone, which can't be developed, and is also provides a gigantic landscape buffer to the properties to the east, or I'm sorry, the west. And then also so we activated the retention pond area, and also there's a central green space for the equipment sub-area C for people to take their dogs or whatever. So there really isn't much any issue with trespassing with the property to the residential properties to the south. The site was specifically designed to contain all of the residents, and then the commercial properties to the north are self-sufficient. There won't be any chance of crossing or interfering or anything with the properties to the south. We went through many iterations of this plan. A lot of it was to respond to planning department, who's in full support of this. The Rocky Fork Black Lick Accord comments, who are also in full support. And then also we worked with traffic diligently to get this right-in, right-out access point on Central College Road, which originally was not preferred by the Division of Traffic, but we thought it was important to direct traffic towards Central College and away from the private road Bubbly Way. I'll also say that the road is not maintained by the condo association, but by the New Albany company, is my understanding, who is also has deed restrictions on the property, on this property that we're buying. So they're on board with the traffic and the development that's going as is. I don't know any possible way to restrict. Bubbly Way has an outlet on the other side. I don't know any possible way to restrict traffic there, but that was the intent of the right-in, right-out, was to divert traffic away from these residential properties. We did work really hard. There's full support. There was not much pushback, except for the Rocky Fork Black Lick Accord. We think it's a great project for this property. There is sufficient green space and activity space for the residents and also for the commercial properties. There's development issues as far as buffering or creating more green space. I don't know how to address that other than there's a storm corridor protection zone and a pipeline easement that bound both sides of these properties. We've done everything we can. We think it's a great project. It's really a great asset for the community. I respect your decision if you think we should table, but I think we have gone above and beyond to try to get this property to respect the neighbors as much as we can. and also have a great project for the city. Thank you very much.
I will commend you that you obviously touched a lot of bases and you've done a lot of work, Eric, or your design people have done a lot of work. When I first looked at this and then looked back at page one, it was only 6 acres. I was shocked because you've done enough work for a 30-acre piece of property. It's all happening on 6 acres. My take, I've been doing this a long time. My take is you're not going to have a very good vote if you go in with this as is. It needs to be refined a little bit. It's pressing the edges so hard that it hurts. We can vote on it if you choose and you take your chances. Otherwise, we can vote to table this and see if you can tweak it and make it a little bit more appealing. Our vote is to determine whether we believe in our hearts if this is an appropriate land use or inappropriate. It's very simple. And in my opinion, this falls below where the needle has to go to be appropriate, at least in my mind. I'm only speaking for me, but I'll let you be the judge. Do you want to have a tabling, or would you rather put it to the vote and go for broke?
No, I mean, I respect what you're saying, and should this commission feel like a tabling that we would certainly agree to that. And thank you.
All right, and a special attention as some of the staff member or the commission members have said, you're right on top of the gas line easement. It's a little it raises the eyebrows a little bit. So if you come back with a few more answers and a few more refinements, it'd be a different story.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Again, I respect that. We did our due diligence, and we're comfortable with the gas pipeline. 25-foot setback is the code requirement, and that's what we're providing. But again, I guess I'll move to the table, please.
All right. I need a motion to table case number 11 in a second.
So move.
Okay, moves.
Second. Marty, second.
Mark seconds. Okay, all those in favor, voice vote, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, you are tabled until the next possible hearing. And you're close, you're appropriate. You just need to work out some of the kinks. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to case number 12, Z21-009-590 Reynolds Avenue.
Within the supplemental packet is a copy of today's email from the Planning Division, which has received elevation drawings that comply with the C2P2 design guidelines. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Thank you. The 0.15 acre site is undeveloped in the P1 private parking district. The requested R4 residential district would allow a single unit dwelling development. The applicant is contemplating a future lot split that would permit the construction of 2 single unit dwellings. To the northeast and west of the site are single unit dwellings in the R4 residential district. To the south across Reynolds Avenue is a manufacturing facility in the M manufacturing district. The site is within the planning boundaries of the Milo Grogan neighborhood plan, which recommends single family residential land uses at this location. Additionally, the plan includes early adoption of the Columbus Citywide Planning Policies Design Guidelines. The site is located within the boundaries of the Milo Grogan Area Commission, whose recommendation is for approval. The city department's recommendation has been updated from conditional approval to approval because the building elevations were satisfactory to the planning division. The requested R4 residential district will allow a single unit dwelling development that is compatible with adjacent residential developments. The proposal is also consistent with the land use recommendations of the Milo Grogan neighborhood plan. We're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions of Lisa? Dan, traffic issues?
No traffic issues.
And Kathy, Recreation Parks?
There are no recreation and parks issues.
Okay. Is the applicant available?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Derek Harbor?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't believe there's any opposition speakers on case number 12, and you have now achieved approval of the staff as well as the area commission. Is there anything you want to add to what the staff has said so far?
No, Mr. Chairman, but I'll take questions if there are any.
Is there anybody on the commission that has any questions of the applicant? Okay, please call the roll.
John Ingwerson,
Yes.
Kayan Wukwe,
Yes.
Marty Anderson,
Yes.
Amanda Golden,
Yes.
Maria Conroy,
Yes.
and Chair Fitzpatrick.
Yes. Okay, you are approved.
Thank you.
All right. Case number 13, I need to recuse myself from, so I will turn the meeting over to John Ingwerson. And
Okay. So
all yours.
Case number Z20-099, 4465 Cautela Drive. Staff?
Yes, in your supplemental packet, there is an email from Daniel Moorhead that outlines some traffic considerations. There's quite a few letters of opposition, and there's one letter of support. This application was tabled at the February 2021 Development Commission meeting to allow the applicant more time to address remaining issues identified by staff. The 58.3 acre site consists of 5 parcels, 3 of which are developed with single unit dwellings, all pending zoning to the R Rural District upon annexation from Blendon Township. The requested PUD4 Planned Unit Development District proposes 3 subareas. Subarea A will permit a 156 unit multi-unit residential development on 27.88 acres. Subarea B proposes 1 single unit dwelling on 7.95 acres, and Subarea C proposes 2 single unit dwellings on 22.5 acres for a total gross density of 2.76 units per acre, with 3.35 acres of provided open space in Subarea A and 16.1 acres of tree preservation areas in Subareas B and C. The site is predominantly surrounded by large lot single-unit dwellings and undeveloped wooded land in Blendon Township. To the north of the site, a single-unit subdivision is being constructed in the PUD6 Planned Unit Development District. To the south, across Central College Road, is a multi-unit residential development in the PUD4 Planned Unit Development District. The site is not located within a planning area, but is subject to the recommendations of the Columbus Citywide Planning Policy Design Guidelines. Additionally, the prevailing low densities in the area and the guidance of the adjoining Northland Plan Volume 2, which recommends 3 units per acre, were considered during the review. Staff support for this development proposal is predicated upon consistency with C2P2 guidelines, including a clear delineation of preservation of natural feature areas, including the tree canopy, wetland, and any site elements in place marking their preservation to prevent encroachment from future development, site design that avoids housing units backing up to open space, and integration of open space as an organizational element throughout the development, including sidewalks on both sides of the street network that are connected to internal paths, activating open space areas as appropriate. This site is not located within the boundaries of a civic association and falls outside of the Rocky Fork Black Lake Accord implementation area. The PUD text commits to a site plan and proposes AR12 Apartment Residential District Standards, Subarea A, including development standards addressing maximum number of units, access, private streets, sidewalks, connectivity, open space, landscaping and screening, and building elevations. The text also proposes R1 residential district standards and tree preservation areas in subareas B and C, and connectivity between subareas A and B. A traffic access study is still pending review by the Division of Traffic Management and Franklin County Engineers Office, and additional traffic-related commitments will likely be required. Previous conditions regarding sidewalks and connectivity are now met, and the required right-of-way dedication of 40 feet from center line of Lee Road is reflected on the site plan. The requested PUD4 planned unit development district will allow a multi-unit residential development containing 156 units and 3.35 acres of open space on subarea A, while retaining 2 single-unit dwellings and permitting a 3rd single-unit dwelling on subareas B and C. Planning Division staff supports the proposal with the addition of a declaration of notice of zoning requirements recorded with the Franklin County over the tree preservation areas, which protect 16.1 acres in subareas B and C. Said tree preservation area was factored into the density calculation for the primary build-out site, resulting in a density of approximately 3.5 units per acre, which is supported. Planning Division staff appreciates the inclusion of alley-loaded style units in subarea A and sidewalks on both sides of the street. Once the traffic access study is approved and necessary commitments have been added to the PUD text to the satisfaction of the Division of Traffic Management, the staff recommendation will be updated to approval. Therefore, staff's recommendation is conditional approval at this time. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions? Marty, have you got any issues regarding conditional?
Yeah, it's no different than my other, I apologize to my fellow commissioners, but I'm really not sure there is such thing as conditional approval. It sounds like a lot of progress has been made. I just prefer or believe, it's not a preference. I don't think there is any such thing as conditional approval. I respect my colleagues, especially my long-serving colleagues' opinions to the contrary. I would vote no just because of that, but I just want to let my colleagues know it is predominantly because of that.
Any else?
John, can we hear from Dan Moorhead?
Well, absolutely. I just wondered if you had any questions for Shannon, but we'll go to traffic next. Daniel?
Like Shannon mentioned, all traffic management issues have been resolved for this application. The Central College Road frontage of this site is under the jurisdiction of the Franklin County Engineers Office, and they have full access approval authority for the proposed access point to Central College Road and for the traffic access study that is in progress. Although we typically ask that any commitments that Franklin County asks for be incorporated into zoning text, and so that's the reason for the conditional approval as opposed to full approval. So with the pending traffic access study, there's been one review. Comments have been returned. There's been a second submittal that was provided recently. The county does have some concerns about site distance for the proposed access point, Central College Road. And so they have requested that a site distance exhibit be provided for their review. So that is pending. And so there's some potential that the access point may need to be relocated further to the west. And it's likely that the final traffic study would require that an eastbound left turn lane be constructed at the proposed site access. So that would either likely be included as a commitment, but there's also planned public improvements at the intersection of Central College and Lee Road. And so there's some additional discussion that will be needed on how that commitment might need to be coordinated with those potential future public improvements.
Thank you. Kay, did you have a question for Daniel?
Yes. So Dan, what happens if the county engineer response is not favorable?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
I say, what happens if the county engineer's response is not favorable for the development to continue?
Well, in order to get access to Central College Road, the Franklin County Engineer's Office will need to be satisfied. So they won't be able to develop without access to Central College Road with the current proposal.
So to be clear, Daniel, you're not having an opinion on the accessibility issue that the county would have, or, I mean, they can't go this far without turning that card over to see what the access issue is there. The only thing I was able to read was a 50-mile-an-hour deal in order to move that to give more distance for the turn lane. Are you, it seems that the city is convinced to a certainty that you're supporting this thing, waiting on the county engineer, but his decision is what, a formality, or is it a 50-50 deal?
I mean, yeah, there'll still need to be a site distance exhibit, prepared, and that will be approved by the Franklin County Engineer's Office. I would think that's likely that's something that we'll be able to work out that should be approved by the Franklin County Engineer's Office, but not having reviewed that kind of exhibit, I can't, say certain.
Any other questions, commissioners, for Daniel? Parks and Recreation, Kathy?
Our comments regarding the natural resource protection, landscaping, and the internal paths have all been included with the comments.
Okay. The applicant, would you like to make comment now, or and then listen to the speakers and
Yes.
then respond?
If I may, that would be great. I'll be as brief as I can be. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. Aaron Underhill here representing Trepless Communities, and with me is Stephen Hicks, the Director of Development for the company. The last time we were before you, we had several issues to work out with the planning department and with the traffic folks. Since we're on the topic, I'll address traffic first. Anything that traffic study is going to reveal at this point, we're going to undertake that site distance analysis, but we'll make the appropriate adjustments to get those approvals. And if there is in fact a turn lane necessary, we have always planned on having to do that. So to me, those are the two things that remain, I guess, to be stamped as approved by the county. We believe the chances of those things not working out are very minimal. And I think Daniel basically has summarized it that way. We would not move ahead to city council until such time as we've got those things figured out. And we understand there's an intersection improvement plan at Lee and Central College Roads. And if in fact we need to make a contribution in lieu of actually installing the turn lane based on timing, we would do so. Since the last time we were here, in order to gain planning support, we added nearly 4,100 linear feet of sidewalk within the project. That allows us to now have every unit with direct access to that sidewalk. I know that was a significant concern. We have, so that was a pretty major addition here. We have provided pedestrian connectivity to other sites that may develop in the future. We have provided additional plantings along the perimeters in addition to providing tree preservation of significant trees along those boundaries to provide additional screening for our neighbors. And then I think what was really what we had to work with our the various property owners involved here was tree preservation, and we have made a significant commitment to that. We will record a declaration against all of the affected properties that will put in the chain of title a notice that, some people don't go and look at their underlying zoning when they buy a piece of property, but we'll put them on notice in their title work that there are zoning commitments to preserve all of the mature trees in these preserved areas. And therefore, everyone will be on notice of it, and we'll make sure we don't have any accidents in that regard. So feel like we have come a long way. We have staff support. I understand the question on the conditional approval. I'll say that in every jurisdiction I work in, those conditional approvals are very common. And I think in this instance, there is no debate on our part that anything that's going to arise out of the county's review, that we will certainly be able to address those things, no doubt about it. So with that, I'll leave it for your questions and the community comment. I will note that we do have one note of support in addition to, I think, three notes that were opposed to this project. But I think this community is going to look, while it's been it's categorized as an apartment community because these are for rent units. I want to remind you that these are age restricted units in compliance with federal law. This will be an older demographic, which brings a little less activity, a little less intensity, less traffic. I mentioned that last time. These are very high-end units, somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,900 to $2,500 a month rents, and programmed activities for the community. And importantly, these are ranch-style homes. They're going to feel more and act and look more like condominiums than they will be apartments. And being a ranch style, I think in terms of what neighbors could have expected, there's an MI Homes project just to the north of here. These could have been, a 2-story single family home. So I think that's a plus for the surrounding neighbors as well. But here again, I'll open it up for any questions and comments.
Commissioners, any questions for the applicant at this point? Okay, so I'm not looking at speakers. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello?
Can anybody hear me?
Who is speaking?
John, this is Carl Billhart. Are you ready for the first speaker?
I was just going to lay out, if you weren't here with us earlier, we have 3 speakers pro and 3 con, and 3 minutes each.
My bad.
Don't be repetitive.
And I'm going to time them, so I'll let you know when time's up.
Good. All right. First speaker. Was that Tom and Diane Thevitt?
No, it's Carl Billhart.
Carl Billhart, please go ahead. Unmute yourself.
All right. Okay. I guess we're one of the border properties next to the south end of the development. What I have problem with is how quickly the graphics that Shannon had prepared went by. I was having a hard time relating them to what I'd seen before. That my understanding that there were a total of 5 parcels defined by Franklin County Auditor's Office. 5 parcels, 4 of them were owned or controlled by a family trust of the people that originally amalgamated these properties. The 5th one was owned by individual owners. I was trying to see in the February meeting, Freeplus had showed where they plan to develop and superimposed on the total over outline. But I never understood how their development lined up with the parcel boundaries as shown by the auditor's site. I guess the other comment I have is it probably sounds NIMBY, but the lack of commonality to any of the truly bordering properties. And at let's see, in December, we received notification from the Tree Plus communities that there were 32, 33 people being made aware of this annexation being filed. There's only one of that I can think of actually none of them. I can think of, I was going to say something else. Anyway, these 32, 33 residence parcels represent single family homes ranging in age from 1824, an old schoolhouse at the corner of Lee and Summer College, to, I can't say what the most current is, but certainly somewhere in the, since 2001, if not truly bordering, certainly in the proximity of the development. So not sure what else I can add other than it just doesn't fit. I knew we would these properties would come up for sale sooner or later. We've lived here 45 years, watched the property to the east of us go from actively farmed to nature's recovering its own with 40 and 50-foot trees now.
Okay, can you wind it up, please?
All right. I've said my piece.
Look, if I may, just to cap that. So you had a question about the parcels and how they were aggregated, some issue about notice of owners for the annexation, and lack of commonality with the neighbors and tree preservation. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
The issue about the notification, that's a no, that's not an issue.
Okay. Thank you. Next speaker, please. Shannon, who would that be?
Does John Gambiani want to say anything?
I do, Shannon. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. I have to speak to a couple of things that the attorney said a moment ago, that if they're building ranch style housing there, and it could be 2-story housing and so forth, and that's possible. However, you have to recognize that the density that would be able to happen in that space would be dramatically less than what you're proposing here, because there's no sewer there. And as a consequence of that, you're going to see what minimum of 2-acre properties these days, I believe. I live on the other side of Lee Road on 4+ acres. We have our own well, we have our own septic. We're that's just kind of where we are, and so this property's out of place in that particular environment. But I know it's probably a permitted plan, but it's certainly not a preferred plan. I was talking to Mr. Hebel with Franklin County. I received the traffic study and spent some time looking at that, understanding it, and getting questions answered and so forth. And part of that property, that traffic report, indicates that the left turn lane into the subdivision, into the new complex, should it be approved, that a left turn lane is not an option; it's a mandate. And I've confirmed that indeed is the case. Now, consider that there's already a left turn lane onto Lee Road. Also consider that the ingress egress point that you've proposed dumps directly into Central College Road, directly across the street from a residence that has its driveway coming out right there. If you drive eastbound on Central College Road, it is not a straight road, it curves. So you can't see around that corner. And I raised that issue with Mr. Hebel from Franklin County. He actually visited the site himself and said it looks like the high probability is, the best case, is that the entrance is going to have to be moved to the west. It appears to me that you don't have enough land to move it much more than about 100 feet. I don't know. I can't tell by the scale. Let's say that you don't have to move it, and let's say that you indeed keep it where it is, and they put in the second left turn lane. I haven't seen personally any stacked left turn lanes like that. Any place in the city of Columbus, they're probably out there. I don't know where they are, but you've got cars coming eastbound at 55 miles an hour. You've got cars coming from the west whose speed limit changes pretty quickly before the light, and they come through there at 50 or 55 miles an hour. I've understood that Franklin County, or some, I believe it is considering or planning to put in left turn lanes on Lee Road and Ulrey Road, north and south. That'll do absolutely nothing for the traffic that's going east and west. And right now with...
Okay, can you wrap that up?
I can.
You have the traffic issues pretty well nailed.
Right. The last puzzle part, in my opinion, is the supposed emergency access that's coming out onto Lee Road. That's a private driveway. And according to the fire people, it's going to have to be 20 feet wide and have 13 plus foot clearance vertical, which means all of the trees along the edge of that, when you widen it, are going to have to come out. I sat here and listened to you all talk about putting trees in different places and putting trees in. We're taking out 25 acres of trees. I'm done talking. Thanks for your time, please.
Thank you. Third speaker.
Mr. Tom Vet, did you want to speak?
Yes, I do. Yeah, my name is Tom Tvet. I live at 7217 Lee Road, an adjacent property to this. I want to point out that what you got on there is your proposals on all this stuff here. This is a screenshot of it. That is misleading when you talk about subareas A, B, and C. Subareas B and C are currently existing and are really irrelevant to this. Subarea A, which you listed as 158 single-ready dwelling units on 27.8 acres. Well, that density comes out to 5.68 units per acre. That's already too much. Now, if we count in, I missed your graphic, Shannon, that you put up earlier that showed the retention pond, the wetland preserve, the other retention pond, and the community center. If you took those out of your equation, we'll give it 3 acres. That makes it up to over 6.37 units per acre. This is way, way too much, too high. I mean, everything else around here is all, 1 unit per acre. And you're talking about putting in, 6, almost even 7 units per acre in a small area. And it's totally inappropriate. This is an inappropriate use for this type of a development. In fact, this development here, there's no access to any shopping, restaurants for any of our elderly people. I fit in that clientele, and I wouldn't want to live in this area for that. You have to go somewhere else. You have to live there. I don't care what the Trump community says about this. I think that this is an inappropriate area for them to put this. They only do it because they want to see how many units they can put into a prescribed boundary. I think that if they want to do this, find another area that's more suitable. It's closer to restaurant, closer to parks, closer to shopping and walking. You can't walk around in this. They only have to walk around in their own area. they can't get anywhere. I think it's an inappropriate use for this, and this should really not be put there. There's too many. They're talking about putting way too many units per acre. I mean, I think your own commission only talks about 3 units per acre at most. So that whatever they had on here was misleading at 2.76. That's for the entire acreage, but that's just wrong. Besides the fact of getting rid of all those trees, they have to clear all these trees. They have to go through and clear them all in order to even put this in. Why not save their effort? Move somewhere else. Find a better location. This is not the right location for this development. The other areas of sub B and C, like I said, they're already here. They're developed. They've already been here. So they don't even count in this. It's only that sub area A. It's wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes. I screwed up with the speakers. Brad Corbett had emailed his statement to me earlier, and I think I had a lot of interaction with folks today. So could we allow Brad Corbett to speak also?
Certainly. Brad?
Yep, this is Brad Corbett, 7122 Lee Road, the corner of Lee and Central College, in the old farmhouse that was built in 1870. Just on record, I oppose the development. I do believe there is something better that can be used for that land. But thanks for hearing the voice of the community. I probably don't speak for everybody. And I know we probably come off as crazy and whiny neighbors, but obviously we want to protect the integrity of our community, the safety and the value of our largest investment, which is our homes. Looking at the development plan, honestly, don't see much change from the original one, other than moving some red lines around to get some different density math. But they are still packed in, so that to me is a concern. But it does meet the density requirements, though, just in an odd way. I also understand from some communication, I think it was Shannon, that it's not the city's role to take into consideration the public input. But that they are following the guidelines of the development planning parameters, and they probably do fit into those. But I can tell you, I've worked with other planning and development companies, and we've worked together with those communities, EPCON being one of them, and then also listening earlier with the Thompson Road development, some of the input that the neighbors were able to have into that. So I think the voices of the community and the residents in this matter, they should matter, and it's vital to the well-being of any proposed planning project to have happy neighbors. I'm not aware personally of one single neighbor that supports this type of apartment development. For various reasons, mainly the tree preservation, the negative impact on the home value, and for many of us, severely impacting our ability to sell our homes. So in the end, certainly the owners have the right to sell the property. My recommendation is to table it for better options or improvements to the Trepless plan. The other options could be housing, or you could backload these apartments and spread them out more to the back of that development where there are fewer trees, and then preserve more trees along Lee Road and the neighbors along Lee Road with a further setback from those properties to keep some of the trees and keep some of that privacy. So I'll end it with my question. How are we supposed to feel good about any approval for the development of apartments on this property where we've had very little input? So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Underhill, Councilor Underhill, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you very much. I think this commission is probably, you hear the same thing time and again. Apartments are a dirty word, and one of the reasons, especially in where you have some existing homes. Here again, I want to emphasize the difference between this and your typical multifamily sort of 3-story. Some of the things you saw before tonight, which are perfectly appropriate in those areas. This is much different. This is meeting a very unique segment of the market that the empty nesters who, want some programming, do not want ownership. Maybe they go to Florida for the winter. A lot of very positive things here in that regard. So apartments have a lot of different meanings, and it certainly has a different one. want to point out that Stephen had called, in this COVID world, had invited a bunch of neighbors to a town hall sort of Zoom meeting before we moved ahead with this project, and certainly did give the opportunity for our neighbors to give us some feedback. Obviously, we know that having a wooded area behind you, it starts to feel like yours, and we think we've struck a balance between responsibly developing the property by clustering units. We recognize, we are taking down a good number of trees, but when you look at what we've preserved here, it's over 16 and a half, almost 16.6 acres. And that's nearly 29% of the site. That doesn't include, the other green spaces we have, but that's preservation areas for trees, et cetera. So that's pretty good. Would add that, here again, the impact of a community like this in terms of peak hour traffic is much less than what you'd see from another type of community. Just to the north of us is an MI Homes project that's zoned PUD 4. There's a PUD zoning right to the south of the intersection of Lee and Central College. We're asking for PUD 4. We have included properties that are owned by others in this zoning, or will be. One of those is our seller, and they felt like the house that they own out nearer to Lee Road, it's in subarea B, they wanted to hold on to that and possibly sell it. Our neighbors that are part of this to the north, the Thatchers, see a lot of value in their property and have a home there, and are themselves looking to build a new home on the rear of this. And they've had a lot of interest from developers themselves, but felt as if being a part of this would get them the benefit of some city services, and also allow them, when people talk about, well, we've got other property involved here, the truth of the matter is, yes, we do, but we're making commitments to make sure that that property can't develop without another rezoning. And it's tied to this zoning, so that would be very difficult, if not impossible, to do. So here again, last time we heard you loudly and clearly that if we were able to get planning support for this and a recommendation of approval, albeit conditional on these traffic issues that we think will be resolved, that the use in general and what we're proposing was being looked upon relatively favorably, and we've done that and brought this back to you with that recommendation.
Thank you, Aaron. Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, my name is Stephen Hicks from the applicant. I'd just like to make a few comments. I appreciate the Development Commission's time this evening. I know we're running along pretty late, so I'll try to be brief, but I would just remind everyone that Trepless Communities is an active adult senior developer, and we specifically develop communities just like this for aging baby boomers in our communities. This community will be designed from the ground up to accommodate the needs of aging baby boomers in this market, in this neighborhood, and in this area. Our units are all universal design, so there's no steps in the front door, no steps within the unit. They have roll-in showers, wide hallways, task lighting, lots of natural lighting. It's a high quality architectural design of these units, and we're doing that all for a reason, in order to cater to the needs of an aging baby boomer. We do not provide healthcare meals or healthcare services, so we're different than independent living, but we are certainly much closer to independent living type facilities than we are to traditional multifamily. So I think lots of folks have concerns about the fact that these are apartments, but these are look and feel and act like condos that have been designed around the needs of our specific customer. We have communities in Dublin, Pickerington, and City of Delaware. There'll be another community in Grove City coming out of the ground this year, as well as Centerville, Ohio, and many other communities around Ohio and the Midwest. So we're very excited about this site, and we feel like there was a significant amount of need for this product, not just in Central Ohio, but in this specific neighborhood, in this specific market, we've tried to do our best to be responsible developers and design around the natural features of this area and preserve some of the natural historic character of the area, including that very nice single-family home in sub-area B, working with our neighbors to the north and our partners, the Thatcher family, to accommodate some of their needs that they need. And also, we worked as creatively as possible to make the commitments in regards to tree preservations, which the city planning department found to be very, very important. So we've really stepped up to the plate and everything that's been asked of us to do the right thing, to make sure that this is a responsible, low-impact development that will, fill a significant need in the neighborhood. So with that, I respectfully appreciate your time, and thank you very much.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions at this point for the applicant? Shannon, is there anything that needs to be added to this as far as the zoning commitment for tree preservation? Is that all in the text as you have it now?
Yeah, it's all in the text. The only outstanding item would be any traffic commitments that would need to be added to the PUD text as a result of the approval of the access study.
Okay. Just to the gentleman with the emergency access point, this is sort of a standard thing now with every building development, commercial or otherwise, that the fire department weighs in on. And I've seen personally 6 projects in the last year not be able to be done because they couldn't get a fire hydrant within 400 feet. So there are these demands, and they're all part of the site compliance that has to happen, which includes issues of sewer and screening. And this developer seems to have a product that they're very happy with, and it's not traditional to folks that have lived in a single family house for a long time. But they've responded to the continuation on all points, and I'd like to call this to a vote.
Sir, you addressed me in regard to that emergency access.
Yes.
I wasn't questioning the need for it, because I know it's required. What I will ask you is,
I guess that's, anybody can argue that, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about whether the development here is appropriate to the zoning.
it's fine. You brought it up. You brought it back up. That's all I was coming back.
You're not involved in the discussion at this point. We've moved on. Said your piece. I'd like to call the vote, please.
Could I make a final comment?
No, this is going to vote.
Okay, it's going to vote.
Apologize, I was on mute. Kay Nwukwe?
I think I'm gonna put yes, under the condition that based on what Dan Moorhead said, everything within the city jurisdiction is okay, except pending the county engineer's review, and nothing will proceed until that issue is resolved. So on that condition, I'm gonna vote yes.
Marty Anderson?
No, I already explained, I think, my position, so I won't repeat it. Thank you.
Maria Conroy?
I'm also voting no. I'm partly in support of the Marty's position, but also I still have some issues with the alignment of the density.
Amanda Golden?
I'll vote yes.
And John Ingwerson?
And I vote yes. Your vote is 3-2. You've passed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And certainly the opponents, city council hears this, and we're just the first, the first public recommendation. We have a split vote. We have basis sheets that we fill out that discuss why we voted the way we voted in response to about 8 or 9 items, and bring your comments to city council. Thank you for participation.
That's what we were doing. Is that it?
So,
Everybody, thank you. I'm going to end the meeting for all.
are we done?
Do we need a motion to adjourn? Yeah, I think we need a motion to adjourn.
There wasn't one more case?
I thought we had one
It
more.
was tabled. It was
14
tabled.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yes, I'm positive. It was tabled.
Okay.
Okay. I thought there was.
So,
Let's leave.
do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
John, you are free to stay.
I beg your pardon?
So moved.
Second? Second? I'm not hearing anybody.
All right, everybody.
Aye.
Voting,
I
I'm
think
voting aye.
everybody.
Aye.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I only
Good
have
night.
one eye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good evening. Thank you.
Bye, all. Bye.